A girl was cheated on by a jerk. To vent her anger for other women in the same situation, she printed flyers and scattered them all over the school campus, determined to expose his true face. She wanted to warn her classmates not to be fooled by his handsome looks. This action made Raywit extremely embarrassed. He had a heated argument with Tida and decided to sue her for defamation, threatening to make her suffer. But Tida declared that the one who deserved to be punished was him. Then she called out 3 of Raywit's other girlfriends. Each person gave him a slap to vent their anger and broke up with him at the same time. Tida demanded that Raywit give up his womanizing ways and live more responsibly as a father. Raywit was confused and did not understand what was happening. Tida immediately took out a pregnancy test, saying that he had gotten someone pregnant. Raywit denied it completely, but right at that moment, Anicha stepped forward and confirmed that she was pregnant with his child. This shocking news made Raywit unable to accept it, and he angrily left. Many years later, Tida graduated with a Master of Business Administration and worked at her family's cleaning service company. While presenting an advertising plan to her mother, Mrs. Fawn, she realized she seemed distracted. Her mother showed her a video in which Raywit was being scolded by his father for his loose lifestyle, not caring about the company's work at all. Raywit complained that ever since his stepmother entered his life, his father had completely changed. He did not understand why his father kicked his mother out years ago. The stepmother tried to intervene, not wanting them to continue arguing. But Mr. Cho, Raywit's father, still firmly told the truth, which was that Raywit's mother had an affair. The argument between father and son became more and more intense. Tida did not understand why her mother showed her this video. Her mother explained that in the past, she used to be a maid in the Cho family, not only doing housework but also responsible for taking care of Raywit. Tida was extremely surprised. Her mother recounted that over 20 years ago, she owed Raywit a promise. Back then, Raywit's mother was set up by someone, making his father misunderstand that she and his best friend had an illicit relationship. No matter how Raywit's mother, Mrs. Sa-Ra, explained, his father still did not believe her in front of the evidence presented, especially when she was also accused of embezzling company funds for her lover to plot against the company. Raywit's mother cried and begged, claiming she never betrayed her husband, but Mr. Cho still heartlessly kicked her out of the house and banned her from seeing her son again. Not long after, Mr. Cho remarried and let Tida's mother go because he did not want his ex-wife to know any information about the life of the father and son. At that time, Tida's mother was pregnant. To give her a better life, Mr. Cho gave her a generous compensation sum as a final repayment. However, Raywit did not want Tida's mother to leave at all. Before leaving Thailand, she gently promised the little boy that if one day he faced difficulties or needed someone by his side, she would immediately come back. When saying that, she even stuck out her pinky finger for Raywit to pinky swear and confirm the promise. Now, when Raywit was really in trouble, Tida's mother knew that it was time to fulfill the promise from the past. She told Tida to return to the country in her place and sign a contract to work as a maid for Mr. Cho's family for 5 months. Her mission was to take care of and help Raywit in every way, just like how she once promised to do. Tida was both surprised and opposed to her mother's decision. She did not want to get involved with this terrible ex-boyfriend, but her mother said this was a challenge, because the company's business was not just simply helping customers clean their houses, but also had to bring them a feeling of happiness. She wanted her daughter to learn how to serve customers with her whole heart. Otherwise, she could not hand over the company for her to manage. Seeing her daughter still firmly refuse, she threatened to find another CEO to replace her, and would not leave the company for her to inherit. Under pressure from her mother and advice from her best friend, Tida had to accept. Her mother instructed that she must not let anyone know about their mother-daughter relationship, otherwise Raywit's father would fire her immediately. He would think that his ex-wife sent her there to steal business secrets and continue the plot to sabotage the company. Her mother was sure that her mistress from years ago was framed, but did not know who the mastermind behind it was. After returning to the country, Tida went to find her best friend Saku to ask for help, finding a way to get into Raywit's house to work as a maid. Saku advised her to change her appearance first, giving up expensive brand name items. When both were out of ideas, Saku's siblings said that they had a way. Meanwhile, Raywit was too busy partying outside and did not attend an important meeting, causing the company to lose a large amount of money. Losing all patience, his father decided to remove him from the vice president position and let his stepmother's daughter, Neen, replace him. Raywit mocked that his stepmother's talent for whispering in his father's ear had finally succeeded, but he declared he would not let anyone steal what belonged to him, even if he had to turn against his father. Just when Mr. Cho was angry and about to hit Raywit, Tida suddenly rushed in. Raywit looked at her with a surprised face, remembering her hateful words from the past that they would definitely meet again. Tida begged Mr. Cho to give Raywit one more chance. Finally, he agreed to give his son 5 months to prove himself, requiring him to make the company's profits grow. If not, Neen would replace his position. Raywood accepted his father's challenge. At this moment, everyone just realized Tida's presence and was curious to know who she was. From a future chairwoman of the parent company, now she had to stoop down to work as a maid, scrubbing filthy toilets. It was all to fulfill her mother's promise from over 20 years ago, which was to help the son of a wealthy family overcome every difficulty. To get into their house as a maid, Tida and her best friend staged a scene. She pretended to faint right in front of Mr. Cho's car. Just as he got out to check, her friend posing as a robber rushed over. Tida was going to play the hero saving the damsel in distress. Unexpectedly, a real robber showed up. Tida rushed in to help and got injured on her hand. Luckily, she knew martial arts and with just a few moves, she beat the robber until he ran away. Mr. Cho took out some cash to thank her, but Tida refused and said that if he really wanted to thank her, he should give her a job. Just like that, Tida successfully stepped into the Cho family as a maid. Raywood was extremely surprised to see her, because the two of them used to have a not-so-good relationship in college. He angrily demanded that Tida disappear from his life, but Tida replied that she wasn't going anywhere until she finished writing this novel. Raywood was confused once again. Tida made up a story that she was working as a maid to gain experience and understand characters to finish her new novel. Raywood didn't understand why. Out of so many families, she chose his house, when they clearly hated each other. Tida explained that the male lead in her novel was just as annoying as him, and the female lead had the task of changing him. Therefore, this was the most suitable place. Mr. Cho came out and asked what was going on. Tida begged Raywood to keep it a secret that they used to know each other. She promised to leave as soon as she finished writing the novel, and hoped he wouldn't ruin her dream of becoming a writer. Raywood immediately took this opportunity to tease Tida, forcing her to sincerely apologize to him, otherwise she would be fired. To complete the mission her mother gave her, Tida had to swallow her anger and do it. Raywood looked extremely smug. Mr. Cho told everyone the story of how Tida saved him, then told a servant to take her to her room to rest. But Dom, the housekeeper, was suspicious, thinking that the hero scene might have been intentionally set up by her, just like the maids who were caught before, infiltrating the house to steal business secrets to sell to rivals. Mr. Cho thought that was just stuff that happens in movies. However, the stepmother found the housekeeper's words very reasonable. Finally, Mr. Cho had to request that Tida prove herself first. Only if she gained the housekeeper's trust could she stay. Dom gave Tida the task of cleaning all the restrooms in the temple within half an hour without anyone's help, otherwise she would not pass the test. With her perfectionist personality, Tida completed the job perfectly, making it impossible for Dom to find any flaws, so she had to let her pass this round. When she returned to the villa, Dom asked Tida to clean Raywood's room. Tida saw a photo on the table and asked if the child in the picture was Raywood's son, and where his wife was currently, but Dom did not answer, only reminding her to do her job well and not ask too many questions. Under Dom's direction and supervision, Tida cleaned the entire villa from the inside out, from top to bottom all by herself. In another development at the company meeting, Mr. Cho announced that he was assigning the resort project to his son. Raywood also promised in front of everyone that he would not let them down, and was determined not to let his stepmother's daughter replace him as vice president. That evening, Mr. Cho came home and learned from Tida that his son had not returned yet. He thought that he was probably out partying and goofing off again, and the resort project would probably disappoint him once again. Tida decided not to let Raywood continue to fail like that. She asked a servant in the house about his whereabouts. At this time, Raywood was saying goodbye to his girlfriends, using the excuse that he was busy with the project so he couldn't come to see them anymore. Just as they were celebrating their last night, Tida showed up and without saying a word, dragged Raywood outside. She questioned why he didn't cherish the opportunity his father gave him, and why for so many years he still kept such a loose attitude towards life, without any ambition. She said it was no wonder his wife left, and demanded that Raywood be a good role model for his child. These words angered Raywood. He told Tida that if she didn't know the truth, she shouldn't speak nonsense. The truth of that year was, when Raywood found out Anaicha was pregnant with his child, he decided he would get married right after graduation. But Anaicha bluntly refused, saying that this baby was the result of a mistake, not love. To start over with Anaicha, Raywood promised that he would become a good husband and father. However, Anaicha never wanted to be with Raywood. Therefore, Raywood's father gave Anaicha 10 million baht so she could start a new life, with the only condition being that she had to give birth to the baby and hand it over to them to raise. Anaicha happily agreed. Raywood tried to chase after her to stop her but was blocked by his father. He wanted his son to see the reality clearly, that this girl would choose money over him and the child. Deeply hurt, from then on Raywood no longer believed in love. That was also the reason why he always had such a reckless attitude. During a night out, Raywood bumped into a guy named Pao. Because his ex-girlfriend was once stolen by Raywood, Pao still held a grudge, so he called his henchman to teach him a lesson. Tita saw this and immediately rushed out to stop it, lying that Raywit was her boyfriend, and begged them not to harm them. She also apologized on Raywit's behalf for the mistakes he had made. Seeing that, Pao finally stopped and let Raywit go. Tita urged Raywit to go home quickly, stop going out and causing trouble, and focus wholeheartedly on the resort project. But Raywit insisted on taking Tita home first, as a way to repay her for saving him. When they arrived at the apartment building, Raywit used the excuse that his wound was inflamed and, ignoring Tita's objections, demanded to go up to her apartment so she could help treat it. Actually, he had another motive. When Tita walked out of the bedroom holding the first aid kit, she discovered Raywit was snooping through her computer. Raywit questioned why she lied, claiming to be a writer when he couldn't see any novels written. Then he kept pressing her with questions. Luckily, her best friend had anticipated everything and prepared everything for Tita in advance. She opened the USB and showed him the manuscript of the novel titled The Special Agent Maid. Only then did Raywit reluctantly put aside his suspicions. The next morning, because she overslept, Tita hurriedly ran to the villa and almost crashed straight into Raywit. Fortunately, he managed to reach out and pull her back, helping her avoid a fall. Seeing him dressed neatly and looking dashing, Tita curiously asked if he was going to work or getting ready for a date with some girl. Raywit immediately warned her that if she wanted to keep staying here, she was not allowed to interfere in his private business. However, Tita calmly replied that she couldn't ignore it, because her mission was to come here to take care of him according to the order she received. Raywit was curious about who gave the order, so Tita realized she had misspoken and hurriedly covered it up by saying that it was her conscience ordering her, and this was her important responsibility. Raywit sarcastically remarked that someone who shows up late like her might have a sense of duty, but doesn't understand what responsibility is. Tita was so angry she clenched her fists, her eyes revealing a fierce look. Just as her anger was about to explode, Mrs. Dom the housekeeper walked over and scolded her for daring to have an attitude with the boss, saying if she wasn't happy, she could leave immediately. Tita immediately calmed down and very unwillingly apologized to Raywit. Right after that, she was punished by cleaning the roof for being late. Tita appeared extremely scared and reluctant, while Raywit stood below looking smug, enjoying the feeling of teasing someone else. In another turn of events, Anaita was the owner of a restaurant. She had an appointment with an architect to ask him to redesign the yard into a relaxation area. But Kat, who arrived late, not only didn't start working immediately, but also demanded to eat a full meal first. Although Anaita's restaurant was among the top in Bangkok, Kat still tried to nitpick, claiming that her cooking skills were still not as good as his mother's. Anaita lost patience and asked if he could start working yet. But Kat made an excuse to go to the restroom. When he came out, Anaita reminded him that his zipper was undone. Kat turned away in embarrassment to fix it, but because he couldn't zip it up, he asked Anaita for help. This shameful action made Anaita think he was a pervert. When she was about to leave, Kat turned around and accidentally kissed her on the cheek. Anaita screamed in fear, and without waiting for Kat to explain, gave him a thunderous slap. Just then Raywit arrived and asked what was happening. Kat took out his business card and explained that he wasn't a pervert, and that everything was just a misunderstanding. Raywit looked through the profile and discovered Kat was an excellent interior designer who had won many awards, so he believed he wasn't a bad person. But Anaita still refused to let Kat design for her. Just as Kat was preparing to leave, Raywit invited him to collaborate because his resort needed to be redecorated. Raywit also asked Anaita to be in charge of the resort's restaurant section. He wanted to use cuisine to attract tourists, seeing this as a big advantage to defeat competitors. Anaita, who already had a crush on Raywit, happily agreed. Meanwhile, Mrs. Dom ordered Tita to go out and buy ingredients for dinner. Uncle Khan also happened to have to deliver an iPad to Raywit, so the two went together. When they arrived at the company building, Uncle Khan suddenly had a stomachache, so he asked Tita to bring the item up for him. This time, Raywit's project ran into trouble. The staff team expected to go work at the resort suddenly disbanded. Raywit assumed this was his stepmother's doing, wanting to see him fail. When Tita brought the iPad in, she advised Raywit to use his head to solve the problem and not let emotions rule over reason, warning that if he continued to act impulsively, his life would be ruined. But Raywit angrily kicked Tita out. Mr. Cho walked in and said he was the one who had disbanded that team. He believed that everyone had their own work to do and wanted Raywit to find excellent talent on his own. But Raywit still insisted that it was because his stepmother had whispered in his father's ear. Father and son had a heated argument, causing his sister Neen to suddenly have an asthma attack. As for Tita, she chased after Raywit and advised him to learn how to control his emotions, saying that when facing problems, he must think calmly, and he would surely find a solution. But Raywit completely ignored Tita's good intentions, ordering security to drag her out and calling Uncle Khan upstairs, intentionally leaving Tita to go to the market alone. Just when she felt most helpless, Nin stepped out and decided to sneak out without her mother's knowledge to go with her. When the two of them finished shopping and were preparing to leave, Nin's bag was suddenly snatched by a thief. Kat also happened to be at the market buying vegetables, and hearing Tida's cry for help, he stepped in to help. Tida chased after him and with just a few moves subdued the thief. Kat fell in love with her at first sight. When he was about to introduce himself, Tida was so worried about Nin's safety that she only managed to say a quick thank you before hurriedly leaving. Kat watched Tida leave, hoping that one day he would meet her again. That evening, Tida complained to her best friend about the things that had happened during the day. She didn't know if she could make Raywit any less stupid, and she wasn't confident she could endure it for 5 months. Saku comforted her, saying she would definitely succeed, as this was the best chance to repay the benefactor on her mother's behalf, and more important, she could prove to her mother that she was fully capable of becoming the company president. Returning to the apartment, Tida complained to her mother again about Raywit's stubbornness. Her mother said that Raywit had lacked love since childhood, and if his emotional wounds were healed, all problems would be solved. Therefore, the next day at work, Tida used the excuse of wanting to help the family more to ask Nin about matters related to Raywit. A domineering CEO, in order to kick the beautiful maid out of the house, plotted with his son, then framed her. Unexpectedly, a second later, the son revealed the entire plan. And right when the two were arguing, the kid actually went missing. While Tida was cleaning the living room, Raywit's son, Emotang, ran over, mischievously pushed over a bucket of dirty water, called her an evil witch, and demanded to punish her in the name of the moon. Tida yelled at Emotang to stop immediately. This scene happened to be seen by Raywit and the housekeeper. Raywit demanded Tida apologize to his son, but Tida said she did nothing wrong, and the one who needed to apologize was Emotang. She thought he should teach his son from a young age that if he does something wrong, he must take responsibility. Raywit argued that his son was just playing dress-up and didn't mean to harm her, and the boy wouldn't understand why he had to apologize to a witch. Tida was shocked by Raywit's parenting style and asked why he didn't teach his son to call her a kind angel. Raywit laughed and said that what she used to do to him was even more evil than a witch. Tida took out all her anger on pounding chili peppers, resulting in carelessly getting chili juice in her eyes. Seeing that, Raywit rushed over and told her not to rub them, otherwise it would burn even more. But when he realized his actions, he coldly told her to go wash her eyes, lying that he didn't want to see anyone cry. Tida asked what he was looking for her for. Raywit immediately smiled slyly, led Motang outside, and pretended to say that from now on he would change, spend more time with his son, focus on work, and try to fulfill his responsibilities as a father and a businessman. Tida laughed out loud, saying she must be dreaming. While she was playing with Emotang, Raywit said he had found a new project team and had to return immediately for an emergency meeting, so he asked Tida to take care of Emotang for him. Tida immediately realized this was Raywit's plan. Once something happened to Emotang, he would dump all the responsibility on her, then use that as an excuse to fire her. Raywit was extremely surprised because to kick Tida out, he had just discussed with his son to play hide-and-seek, telling the boy to wait until he left and then bike to the meeting spot, and warned him not to let Tida find out. Tida declared she would stick to Emotang like a shadow, not leaving the boy even half a step. The plan exposed, Raywit called his son back home immediately. Unexpectedly, Emotang told the whole secret just now, making Raywit extremely embarrassed. Tida mocked Raywit not to turn his son into a tool, saying if such a simple plan failed, how could he talk about big business later? While arguing, they discovered Emotang had disappeared. Both worriedly went looking everywhere. Emotang, riding his bike alone, lost control and fell. Luckily, Tida's best friend's siblings were up ahead and saved the boy. The couple took turns scolding Raywit for being irresponsible. Raywit didn't want to hear them nag anymore, so he pulled out money to thank them. Back home, Tida said she could understand he wanted to kick her out, but today he almost paid the price by losing his son. If no one had stepped in to help, he might have regretted it for the rest of his life. Raywit asked if she hated him a lot. Tida replied that before that was true, but now she was trying to forget and sincerely hoped Raywit could be happy and not stay stuck in the past forever. Raywit didn't understand why she wanted him to be happy. Tida stuck to her old explanation, that this was her mission as a maid. Moreover, she knew well that the resort meant a lot to him, otherwise he wouldn't have taken this project in the first place. Elsewhere, data from Mr. Cho's bidding session was leaked by a trusted employee. He angrily asked who put him up to it. The employee insisted no one hired him and asked to take all responsibility. Mr. Cho decided to sue him and suspected his wife was the mastermind, because she had cooperated closely with him for 10 years, even becoming a close friend and being in charge of all important work. The stepmother acted like she knew nothing and was very wronged, denying all accusations. Mr. Cho apologized, saying he was just too scared, fearing that the story of his previous wife would repeat itself. The stepmother immediately swore she would never betray him. Meanwhile, Raywit decided to go on a business trip to the resort for a while until the repairs were complete, and at the same time examine why he couldn't compete with rivals. Unexpectedly, a phone call pushed him into a difficult situation. A few employees at the resort were beaten severely by someone, threatening to ban them from working for Raywit. Others, out of fear, had also quit almost entirely. The stepmother suggested temporarily closing the resort, since it was always in a losing state anyway. But Raywit insisted on continuing business. Tita seized this opportunity. She dragged Uncle Khan and another maid along, volunteering to go to the resort to work. While short on staff, Raywit had to put aside grudges and agree. Tita asked Raywit how important this resort was to him. Raywit recounted that this place held childhood memories of him and his mother, and was also his mother's dream. Tita advised him to improve and run this place better, so that if one day his mother returned, she would definitely be proud of him. Looking at Raywit with a depressed face, Tita asked if he remembered when they were together, what they would do whenever they felt pressure. Back in college, every time Raywit was stressed about exams, Tita would tell him to smile and encourage him, helping him relieve stress and relax. This intimate action happened to be seen by Anita, making her misunderstand that they were a couple. Both hurriedly denied it, lying that they were just helping remove a bug on Raywit's face. Kot was also invited here to work. Here he met Tita again, the girl who made him fall in love at first sight. He happily approached to say hello, saying that meeting again was fate, arranged by destiny. This way of flirting made Tita a bit awkward. That evening, Tita discovered someone passed out on the ground, and she hurriedly shouted for help. Unexpectedly, she herself was attacked by someone from behind and knocked unconscious. Raywit suspected this was caused by a competitor, so he went to ask the security guard about the local situation, and learned there was a boss named Sia. There were many resorts here, and Raywit was sure the culprit was him. When he intended to go find him to settle the score, he was stopped by Tita. She advised Raywit not to let emotions rule over reason, saying that dealing with this type of person who disregards the law required strategy, otherwise he would definitely lose miserably. Sia ordered his henchmen not to stop causing trouble until no one dared to come to their resort to work anymore. Late at night, Raywit patrolled the yard. Tita was worried he would go out and cause trouble, so she followed to watch. Raywit said he would try to become more rational. Tita made him promise not to act alone. Seeing Raywit remain silent for a long time, she asked why he didn't dare to promise. Raywit said it had been a long time since he promised anyone anything, and said that Tita should remember the reason why. It turned out that when the two were in love in college, Raywit always promised Tita all sorts of things. Tita said he used the word promise too much, but Raywit, the one involved, didn't realize it at all. He only knew that he would never break his word, and in this life he would only love her. But in the end, every promise became empty words. After Tita humiliated him in front of all his girlfriends, he no longer made promises to anyone, not wanting to hurt another person. But this time, Tita forced him to promise not to act impulsively. Raywit teased that since she was so worried about him, was she falling for him again? Tita said his narcissism hadn't changed at all over the years. The actions of the two were seen by Anita and Kot. They suspected that their relationship was not simply boss and subordinate, so they decided to find a way to prove it. Kot suggested that each of them date the person they liked to see the other's reaction. Unexpectedly, their entire conversation was overheard by Tita. She told them not to waste any more time, because she already had a boyfriend. This made Anita and Kot quite surprised. As for Raywit, he took the initiative to meet Sia, hoping he could help find the person who kept attacking him, or tell him not to be someone who throws stones behind others' backs. Sia warned Raywit to watch his mouth, but Raywit was not afraid at all. He said he came here to work and wouldn't infringe on anyone, but he also absolutely wouldn't allow others to cross the line. Before leaving, Raywit also reminded Sia that if he wanted to meet in the future, he should come properly, because if something bad happened, people might think he was that crazy person. In another development, the stepmother scolded the secretary who leaked the data, blaming him for failing such a simple task and getting caught red-handed at the bidding session. To avoid making her husband suspicious, she told the secretary to leave and never come back. At this time, Sia called to report that Raywit had come to find him. He said no one had ever dared to be so arrogant with him, and asked the stepmother for permission to teach Raywit a lesson. The stepmother was worried about alerting the police and being investigated, so she stopped him, demanding Sia stick to the original plan of preventing Raywit from running the resort until he gave up. Sia also reminded the stepmother not to forget her promise, that after everything succeeded, she must help him get this resort. But it seemed like the stepmother intended to burn bridges. Returning to Raywit, he gathered everyone and decided that after the last guest checked out, they would temporarily stop business. He ordered the technical department to install cameras all over the resort, especially in blind spots. Anita, following Raywit's suggestion, added a new menu. Kot also decided to invite a senior to help with the renovation. Everyone was united, determined to make the resort the #1 in the region. Unexpectedly, when Kot Sr. was in Bangkok preparing to come to the resort, he was beaten up by Sia's henchmen. Because he needed a long time to recover, he temporarily couldn't work. Raywood assumed it was definitely Sia's doing again, and suspected there was a mole among the staff. To create an alibi that his henchmen didn't go to Bangkok, Sia brought them to the resort immediately, but was chased away by Raywood. Sia said that although they were in the same business, right now he really wanted to be a guest staying for a few nights, so why be so hostile? Raywood didn't want to argue with a crazy person, warning Sia not to set foot in here again. Sia also made a threat, saying if Raywood kept intentionally confronting him, he would personally send him to hell. Raywood started investigating all the employees. He learned from security that except for Sampan in the laundry room who hadn't been attacked, almost everyone else had been threatened. Everyone immediately narrowed down the suspect to her. Raywood ordered the engineer to install a few more cameras in the staff break room. Sampan happened to walk by and overheard the conversation, and her behavior became extremely suspicious. A while later, Raywood reported the plan here to his father and asked him to pass a message to his stepmother, not to have delusions of stealing any assets. He was the co-founder of the Cho Construction Company, and all assets in the house belonged to him. Tida advised Raywood to speak nicely to his father. She understood that he had a hang-up about his father kicking his mother out, but it was a long time ago, and he shouldn't keep holding on to the past. Raywood was surprised, asking how she knew this and who told her. Not long ago, Raywood intentionally spread fake news that he would collaborate with a famous travel agency. After receiving the news from the mole, Sia didn't dare to act rashly, so he immediately flew to Bangkok to discuss things with Raywood's stepmother. Since he had just dealt with their designer, if he made a move on the travel agency's CEO now, he was afraid the police would suspect him directly. But the stepmother was worried that Raywood would win the bet with his father, so she had to stop him at all costs, demanding that he act carefully and leave no evidence. Sia had to agree, but he had also prepared an exit strategy for himself, ordering his henchmen to record their entire conversation, just in case the stepmother burned bridges and blamed everything on him. The next day, Tida noticed that the resort had a lot more security guards. She learned from Kot that Raywood had ordered a lockdown, forbidding anyone from entering or leaving because they had caught a mole. Hearing that, Sampan was startled and hurriedly left. Through that test, Kot was even more certain that Sampan was the mole. He told Tida to watch her closely and make her believe that Raywood had caught the right person. Elsewhere, Sia sent his henchmen to teach the travel agency's CEO a lesson. Unexpectedly, only Raywood was inside the meeting room. Raywood said that their boss's news was quite fast, but it was a pity he received false information. The two tricked henchmen immediately rushed in to hit Raywood, but they were no match for him at all. With just a few kicks, he easily took them down. After the police arrived, no matter how much they were questioned, those two still wouldn't reveal the mastermind. The police had to temporarily take them into custody, and then went to bring Sia to the station for questioning. Raywood looked smug, saying that no one is above the law. At this moment, Sia still confidently said that he knew nothing about this, asking why he would be stupid enough to bring trouble upon himself when he owned so many resorts. Raywood told Sia to just go to the police station to prove his innocence, because he had discovered the mole he planted. By now, the police were probably on their way to make an arrest. Sia immediately panicked and felt uneasy. However, things did not go as Raywood predicted. The real mole was Engineer Chai. When he was preparing to leave, he was spotted by Sampan. Chai took the opportunity when she wasn't paying attention to knock her out and flee. The reason Sampan's behavior was suspicious before was that her husband had been arrested for using drugs. She was afraid everyone would gossip behind her back, so she didn't dare to face anyone. Afterward, Chai was wanted by the police and had nowhere to go, so he went to Sia to ask for help. Sia gave him a sum of money and told him to find a hideout first. Unexpectedly, just as he was preparing to leave, Chai was eliminated. Although Raywood still didn't have evidence this time, he had the upper hand, making Sia temporarily afraid to act recklessly again. Meanwhile, Anaita and Kot had business to handle in Bangkok, so they went back together that night. Tida saw that Raywood was constantly busy with the resort's work, so she brought him some coffee. Because there were many mosquitoes in the yard, Raywood asked her to go into the storage room to get mosquito spray. But Tida couldn't find it after searching for a while, so she called Raywood in to help look. Uncle Khan walked by and, not knowing anyone was inside, locked the door. The tight space caused Raywood's phobia to relapse, and he felt suffocated. Tida asked if there was any way to help him feel better. Raywood said that when he was little, a maid named Fawn would hug him all night to help him overcome his fear. Hearing her mother's name, Tida decided to help Raywood recover, and told him to forget everything that happened here once they left the room. She stepped forward and hugged him just like her mother used to do. Although Raywood was very surprised by this action, His arms unconsciously embraced her, and his heart beat fast. Just as he was enjoying this sweet moment, the two close maids suddenly rushed in. Raywood explained that they just went in to look for mosquito spray, but somehow got locked in by Uncle Khan. The next day, Tita also had to return to Bangkok for a few days. Raywood asked her if she would come back to help him. Hearing Tita say that it was her responsibility, his face immediately lit up. Since he had to review the resort's budget with his father, Raywood decided to go to the company with Tita. As soon as they arrived, he immediately suggested his father discuss the project and requested that his stepmother stay as well, because he had a few words he wanted to say to her. That evening, a heavy mood made Raywood go to a bar to relieve stress. As always, he was surrounded by a few girls, but his attitude was completely different this time. Even he realized that he was no longer interested in those frivolous pleasures. Just as he was about to leave, Tita suddenly appeared. She scolded him for refusing to grow up, still stuck in his old ways, her voice full of disappointment. Raywood hurriedly explained that he only came here because he felt empty, but then he didn't find any joy either. His mind was filled only with work right now. Hearing that, Tita calmed down a bit. However, when the two were preparing to leave the bar, Tita accidentally saw Thumb getting intimate with a strange girl. Someone who was once deeply hurt by her first love. Now witnessing her current boyfriend sneaking around behind her back, that pain stunned her. Not giving that jerk a chance to explain, Tita threw a whole cup of hot water right at him. In that moment of despair, she could only ask herself what karma she had created to suffer being betrayed twice. With tears streaming down her face, Tita turned her back and walked away, her heart broken. In another turn of events, Raywood told his father that someone was hindering him from managing the resort and reminded him to be careful too, so as not to get bitten back by the opponent. He said he would soon put those who wanted to overthrow him in prison, because someone was pulling the strings behind this. His younger sister told Raywood not to accuse her mother arbitrarily without evidence. But Raywood said he had the right to be suspicious, because what he was facing was very similar to the cruel things his stepmother did 4 years ago, when she had people threaten villagers, forcing them to sell land to build her own apartment complex. The stepmother acted innocent, telling Raywood not to slander her. His father also angrily chased him away. Raywood declared he would definitely find the mastermind and put her in prison. The shameless stepmother even chased him outside, saying that she had to endure Raywood's contempt and humiliation, even though there was no evidence proving she was guilty. Raywood told his stepmother not to rush, and to wait until Sia was arrested, then she would naturally know who was behind it. The stepmother immediately called Sia, demanding he take action and kick Raywood out of the resort before she lost it completely. She also demanded that he follow his previous promise, that if he got caught, he must not expose her. A friend of Tita's mother wanted to franchise a branch of the company. Tita dressed gorgeously to go discuss the details. Unexpectedly, the meeting restaurant turned out to be Anita's restaurant, and she was accidentally seen by Anita and caught. Tita's beautiful, luxurious appearance in designer clothes made the two of them unable to understand what was happening. They immediately brought the food out personally to find out her true identity. Tita was very surprised to learn that this was Anita's restaurant. Just when she didn't know how to explain, Raywood, who came to find Anita to discuss work, rescued her in time, telling everyone that Tita was a writer and her goal was to pretend to be a maid. But Anita did not believe it at all. Under everyone's questioning, Tita had to tell the truth that she was the chairwoman of a listed company abroad, sent to the Cho family to participate in maid training. Caught teased that she must have written too many novels. Seeing everyone still looking skeptical, Tita angrily blurted out that they wouldn't believe anything she said. Raywood saw the situation wasn't good, so he immediately ended the story there, and switched to discussing the resort's work. Just like that, a talented, beautiful lady from a family with their own company accepted hiding under the identity of a maid to help her mother fulfill a promise from years ago to the boy, Raywood, who was now an adult. However, life was not as smooth as her gentle appearance. Her first love with Raywood was left unfinished, and her second love with Thumb was no better. When Tita went to the bar to look for Raywood, she accidentally saw Thumb being intimate with another girl. At that moment, she finally understood why he kept avoiding her, and why her calls were always met with silence. In her pain, Tita threw a cup of water right at him and walked away. Thumb hurriedly chased after her, explaining that the girl was just his cousin who flew over to surprise Tita the next day, and since they also had to discuss a contract, he met her tonight, never expecting it to lead to a misunderstanding. After a moment of hesitation, Tita chose to believe him. From afar, Raywood watched the two hugging, and a nameless feeling of disappointment rose in his heart. Because Thumb had to go back to continue discussing work, he had to ask Raywood to take Tita home. With a man's intuition, Raywood felt that Thumb was very strange, not at all like a faithful boyfriend. But Tita believed that Thumb would not deceive her. Early the next morning, Tita discovered that her best friend's brother knew how to make nutritious dishes, so she came up with a plan to help Raywit investigate his stepmother. She used the excuse of helping Neen improve her health and asthma to introduce her friend's brother into the house to teach Neen how to cook. She wanted to use Neen to find out information about the stepmother. Raywit was worried that if the plan failed, it would cause trouble for Saku's brother. But Tida told Raywit not to worry, saying that as long as they were careful enough, they wouldn't be suspected, and moreover, they could kill two birds with one stone, helping both Raywit and Neen. Meanwhile, Saku's sister-in-law asked Neen why she was under so much pressure at such a young age. Neen lamented that although her mother loved her very much, she always forced her to do things she didn't want to do, leaving her with no mind of her own. Neen felt that her mother was hiding a very important secret. Just as they were about to ask more, the stepmother walked over and questioned why they were prying into her business. Saku's brother lied, saying he just wanted to know details about Nin's lifestyle to create a therapeutic menu for her. The cautious stepmother found this very suspicious, so she kicked them out. She told her daughter that from now on, she wasn't allowed to talk to anyone but her, because only her mother loved her the most, had chosen the best path for her, and she could only trust her mother. Neen was like a puppet, only knowing how to obey her mother. The stepmother then told her daughter to check the house surveillance cameras, wanting to see if Tida and Saku's brother were secretly talking to each other. Unexpectedly, she discovered that the way Tida and Raywit acted around each other was very strange, not at all like a boss-employee relationship. Although the two were arguing, Tida didn't seem afraid at all, as if Raywit wasn't her boss. She started to suspect that their relationship was more than just acquaintances, so she ordered her daughter to help her monitor their every move. Elsewhere, Raywit invited the person in charge of the resort's area over and learned some important information from him. This time he was confident enough to send Sia to jail. Before heading to the resort, Raywit said goodbye to his father. Their conversation was overheard by the stepmother. She immediately called to warn Sia to be careful, because Raywit seemed to have a plan to deal with him. But Sia was impatiently waiting for Raywit's arrival, confident that he would end this. So, as soon as Raywit arrived at the resort, Sia brought the police to his door, accusing him of hiring a hitman, and even intentionally invited reporters to blow up the story, making it trend immediately. The company's reputation and stock prices plummeted. Mr. Cho was furious at his son's behavior, just as disappointed as he expected to be. As for the stepmother, she smiled smugly. Unexpectedly, due to lack of evidence, Raywit was released unharmed. On the contrary, Sia was arrested by the police for drug trafficking. Raywit announced that the village chief's younger brother had turned himself in and revealed who the biggest dealer in the area was. Turned out that while in Bangkok, the village chief had provided Raywit with all the evidence of his brother and Sia's drug trafficking, enough to put Sia in prison for the rest of his life. Raywit threatened him that if he didn't want a heavy sentence, he should confess who the mastermind behind blocking him from managing the resort was. However, just as everyone was celebrating, something unexpected happened again. Sia escaped while being transported to the police station. As for Thumb, in order to be with Tida more, he went straight to the resort. Knowing that dangerous things had happened there, he wanted to take Tida back to Bangkok immediately. This time, Sia had also disguised himself and arrived, wanting to finish off Raywit, the man who ruined his life. Kot bravely rushed in to stop him. Sia took Tida hostage to make his escape. Tida quick-wittedly escaped his grip. To save his life, Sia had to flee first. Meanwhile, Thumb hid in a corner the whole time, ignoring Tida's safety. This made Tida extremely heartbroken and disappointed in him. Elsewhere, Sia thought the person who came to his rescue was sent by the stepmother, so he demanded she prepare another 50 million baht for him to flee the country. But the stepmother flatly refused. Sia immediately used the video he recorded earlier to threaten her, saying if she didn't transfer the money, he would have his henchmen release the video immediately. At this moment, the stepmother said she never sent anyone to help. Just as Sia was getting suspicious, the rescuer shot him dead, then reported to a man named Radet that the mission was complete. Radet ordered him to destroy all evidence immediately, so the police wouldn't suspect him and the stepmother. As for Raywit, he was very shocked to hear that Sia had been killed, suspecting there was a bigger figure behind the scenes trying to destroy the resort. Meanwhile, Thumb stepped forward to ask if Tida was hurt, but Tida brushed his hand away, because she had seen through his true nature. The next day, Raywit thanked Kot for saving his life. Kot said that although they had just met, he felt a strange connection to him, like they were biological brothers. And Raywit was also drawn to Kot from the first day they met, which was why he hired him as the designer for the resort. Kot teased that they must have been long-lost brothers in a past life. As for Tida, after everything that happened, she used to think that lovers could entrust their lives to each other. But now it seems she was wrong. Kot comforted her, saying she wasn't wrong. She just entrusted her life to the wrong person. Early the next morning in Ita, following a friend's recommendation, invested a few million baht into gold stocks but didn't make a single baht of profit. She wanted Kot to accompany her to talk to the person in charge. But Kot had a meeting scheduled with a contractor, so he could only offer her moral support. As she was preparing to leave, she saw Thumb arrive. So she called to inform Tida. It turned out that Thumb was the person in charge of that gold stock company. He said he had people investigate the parent company, and there shouldn't be any problems, hoping Anaita would continue investing. But Anaita no longer trusted them. Thumb then invited his girlfriend over to help persuade her, wanting to show Anaita the stability and reliability of the company. Just then, Tida arrived and overheard Thumb calling the other girl in a very intimate tone. Thumb was about to start explaining when the mistress stepped up and interrupted, saying she couldn't take it anymore. Before, she only agreed to play along as his cousin because Thumb promised to break up with Tida soon. Now, she wanted Thumb to make a choice. Faced with this messy situation, Thumb firmly stated that in his heart, there was only Tida. This point, Anaita told them to solve her problem first before fighting over love. But the mistress said this had nothing to do with her, so she took no responsibility, then slapped Thumb once and left. Out of resentment, Tida poured a cup of water over his head, then also gave him a slap and left in pain. Thumb was about to run after her to explain when he was stopped by Anaita. She demanded he return the money immediately. Otherwise he shouldn't dream of having a chance to win Tida back. When Raywit heard the news, he was very happy for Tida, that she finally opened her eyes and was no longer deceived by false words. Tida never thought that the person she considered the best could hurt her like that. Raywit gave Tida two choices. One, to end all feelings decisively. Two, if she wanted to give him a chance, then forgive him and start over. This moment, Thumb chased after her, begging her to give him one last chance, because he really loved her. But Tida said she never loved him. Before, she thought that two people caring for and supporting each other was love, but in reality, she never felt a spark. But Thumb didn't believe that was the truth, thinking Tida had a change of heart. Tida said she hadn't changed, she just understood herself better, hoping they could take a step back and be normal friends. Thumb was unwilling to accept this, so he used the fact that Tida was working as a maid to threaten her. Tida also reminded Thumb not to forget that she also kept his secrets back in the US, then boldly kicked Thumb out of her life. To make Tida feel better, Raywit took her to the temple to make merit. Tida thanked him for being by her side on the worst day of her life. Raywit also thanked Tida for always helping him whenever he faced difficulties. The two had a happy day at the temple, and Tida's feeling of heartbreak gradually faded. Raywit told Tida that next time she falls in love, tell him first so he can help her appraise him to avoid wasting time. But Tida said that loving someone takes a lot of time and for now, it's better to focus on her mission. In another development, while Mr. Cho and the stepmother were discussing Sia's case, Raywit walked over and declared he would definitely find the mastermind. Although he always suspected his stepmother, unfortunately, the dead cannot speak. Mr. Cho told his son not to keep criticizing others without evidence. The stepmother also no longer tolerated Raywit, declaring that if he crossed the line again, she would see him in court. Raywit swore to make the person who harmed his mother pay, and that the wrongdoer must be punished. The stepmother cried and acted wronged in front of Mr. Cho again, then cried and complained to her daughter that no matter what she did, she couldn't make Raywit accept her. On the contrary, he exaggerated things to kick her and her daughter out. After a while of brainwashing, she successfully made Neen hate Raywit. The next day, the stepmother lied that she wanted to travel due to too much pressure, but in reality, she secretly went to find Radet to express her longing. Radet promised that after getting all of Mr. Cho's assets, they would be together forever. The stepmother was worried that once Raywit made the resort profitable, his position as vice president would be secure, and then he would definitely kick her and her daughter out of the company. Radet said he absolutely wouldn't let that happen. What he cared about most now was when they would tell Neen the truth, that he was her biological father. The stepmother told Radet to wait a little longer. For now they had to quickly get the Cho family's assets, so their family of 3 could live happily together. On the way back, the stepmother's car was blocked by another car. She got out and scolded the other driver for stopping there. Unexpectedly, the car owner was the secretary she had fired before. The secretary shouted that she had ruined his life, then stepped on the gas and drove straight at her. While running away, the stepmother unfortunately fell and fainted. After waking up, she told Mr. Cho that this was not an accident but an attack. Mr. Cho asked who wanted to harm her. The stepmother remembered Radet's instructions before leaving, that she had to find a way to divide the father and son's affection, making them hate each other so their future work would be easier. Therefore, she lied that the only person who considered her an enemy was Raywit. This moment, Raywit also arrived just in time. Mr. Cho, without saying a word, gave him a slap and scolded him for being so cruel. Raywit was confused, not understanding what had happened again. After Raywit left, Tita chased after him and advised Raywit to stay calm and not make a big deal out of it. But this was inherently not a small matter, and Raywit was determined to find the real culprit. Unexpectedly, the perpetrator had already been dealt with by Radette. When Radette inquired about the stepmother's injuries, he learned that it was the former secretary who had harmed her for revenge. To frame Raywit, Radette ordered his henchmen to eliminate the secretary. Meanwhile, the stepmother started crying to her daughter again, saying that Raywit never considered them family and always saw her and her daughter as enemies. Although her father seemed to take their side, in the end, he still loved and forgave Raywit. As for Neen, she wanted her mother to move out, but the stepmother claimed she was the mistress of the Cho family, entitled to enjoy all of Mr. Cho's assets, and she absolutely wouldn't let Raywit steal them. Under her mother's constant brainwashing, Nin's attitude towards Raywit began to turn cold. However, Raywit was understanding. He didn't want to cause conflict with her because the issue with the stepmother had nothing to do with Nin. He hoped she could understand him. But Nin said she also had self-respect and would not endure like before, tolerating his constant humiliation of her mother. Later, Raywit gave a book to Tita, hoping it could heal her emotional wounds. Tita said she wasn't too sad because Thumb wasn't worth her tears at all. Raywit teased that it meant he was worth it, since she had cried for him before. Tita laughed and said that year she cried because of the spicy chili peppers. The scene of the two talking was watched by Dom, the housekeeper. Afterward, she secretly observed Tita from behind and discovered that a country maid like her could read English. Tita lied that she used to work in a Western restaurant and, being interested in English, had taught herself. Dom immediately reported this to the stepmother, saying Tita didn't look like a maid but more like a female company president in disguise, and moreover, her relationship with Raywit was very intimate. The stepmother ordered Dom to continue monitoring Tita and report any activity immediately. At this time, Tita also noticed Dom's unusual behavior and immediately called Raywit. Suspecting she was ordered to secretly investigate them, Raywit told Tita to be careful and not reveal any suspicious behavior. As for Cho, he told his son to go to the hospital to visit the stepmother. Although they were always in a state of hating each other, at least he had to show sincerity that he did nothing wrong. Raywit said he would definitely visit her, because he also wanted to find out who exactly harmed her. Just as Mr. Cho left, Radette came to find Raywit to discuss cooperation. Raywit was very satisfied with the project Radette proposed, but still needed to report to his father first, believing that his father would also approve of this project. But when Cho saw Radette, he punched him straight in the face, scolding him for daring to set foot in there, and declared he would never agree to cooperate with someone who had been in prison. Radette said the reason he went to prison was because he trusted Mr. Cho, never expecting to be betrayed by his best friend, but he still chose to forgive. Mr. Cho criticized him again, saying he was the one who planned to bankrupt the company. Seeing the situation becoming tense, Raywit stepped in to intervene, only to be told by his father that it was his mother who conspired to bring Radette to his side. They not only had an illicit relationship, but also planned to steal the family's assets. That was why he kicked his ex-wife out years ago. Raywit was extremely shocked, unable to believe it was the truth. Mr. Cho told Radette not to have delusions of competing with him, because the only place suitable for him was prison or hell. When Radette left, Raywit chased after him and confirmed with Radette once again that his mother didn't do such things. Although Radette didn't deny it directly, his words implicitly suggested it was true. The last time he met Raywit's mother, she begged him not to tell anyone about this. This made Raywit collapse. In another development, Anaita was sad about Tita's breakup, worried she would end up with Raywit. Kot comforted her not to worry, because Tita would definitely love him, and hoped for Anaita's help. They used the excuse of helping Tita heal her heart to come and cook for her. Anaita took the opportunity to pair the two up, saying someone didn't want to just be friends. Although Tita didn't want to think about this right now, Kot still actively offered to take care of her, and told Tita not to rush to refuse. He had never felt so good about anyone. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Tita received a call from Raywit and hurriedly ran off. Anaita felt a bit disappointed in her heart, feeling there must be some secret. Right now, Raywit was suffering because of his mother's story. Even if he made mistakes in his life, he wouldn't be in this much pain. He leaned on Tita's shoulder and sat silently. Tita didn't know the reason, only knowing to constantly comfort him. The actions of the two were seen by Anaita and Kot. Kot asserted that the two of them must be in love. He asked himself what he had to compete with Raywit and decided to plan with Anaita, otherwise both would definitely suffer from losing the person they loved. But at this moment, Anaita felt extremely heartbroken. Back at the apartment, Tita recounted that when they broke up years ago, she had exposed his true face in front of everyone. Although she looked very smug, in reality she cried every day. By forcing herself to smile, she was able to get through that painful heartbreak, and she told Raywit to try it too so life would give him a way out and everything would pass. With Tita's advice, Raywit's mood finally improved a lot. But deep down, He silently reminded himself not to misunderstand. Tida only cared about him as a friend, and that was all. Elsewhere, Mr. Cho was drinking to drown his sorrows over the Radette issue, criticizing Raywit for making him remember the bad things about his ex-wife, Saare, even though he had always tried to forget. Raywit told his father to respect his mother. But Mr. Cho thought that a person without self-respect did not deserve respect, and someone who abandoned her child and husband to follow a lover did not deserve respect. He also scolded Raywit, saying the person who deserved to be hated was his mother, not him and his stepmother. Raywit didn't want to argue with his drunk father, so he told the maid to take care of him. Neen chased after him and asked Raywit if what their father said was the truth. Raywit said that it had nothing to do with her. Neen warned Raywit that from now on, he no longer had the right to criticize her mother, and his pain couldn't compare to hers, because for her whole life, she had to endure Raywit's insults towards her mother. Next, Neen went to find Mrs. Dom to get to the bottom of the matter, learning that the Cho Construction Company was co-founded by Mr. Cho and Radette. After Mr. Cho discovered his wife was having an affair, he ended his relationship with her, and Radette was also sued for fraud and had to go to prison. Neen asked if this had anything to do with her mother. Mrs. Dom hesitated, making the excuse that she didn't want to bring up the past. Their conversation was overheard by Tida from the corner of the room, so she urged Neen to go find Radette to ask for the truth, as that might resolve the conflict with her father. She asked for surveillance footage from the company security to see what Radette looked like, and discovered that this person was the very man she had once caught dating her mother. At that time, the two of them appeared very intimate. Neen was extremely shocked for a moment. This caused her asthma to suddenly flare up. Neen told Tida not to discuss this with her anymore, as she didn't want anyone to be suspicious. Tida immediately told Raywit about Nin's reaction when seeing Radette, feeling that her behavior was very strange. After being discharged from the hospital, the stepmother lied that she was going to a friend's party. Neen secretly followed her, determined to find out the truth. She discovered her mother being passionately intimate with Radette. Neen painfully questioned her mother why she was doing that. Radette then blurted out the truth that he was her biological father. This made Neen extremely shocked. After confirming the truth from her mother, her asthma flared up again and she fainted. After waking up, Neen said that she only had one father, which was the person who had raised her all her life, not Radette. The stepmother started brainwashing her daughter again, saying that Mr. Cho never truly loved them, and the only person he would ever love was Raywit. She even asked her daughter if she remembered what the first gift she asked him for was. That year, Neen achieved the top rank at school. When Mr. Cho wanted to reward her, Neen said she didn't need anything. The stepmother immediately suggested a share of stocks equivalent to Raywit's and appointing her daughter as another vice president of the company. But at that time Mr. Cho hesitated and said he needed to think about it. Later, under the stepmother's strong demand, although he gave it, it was much less than Raywit's. Things had gotten to this point, and Radette added fuel to the fire. He twisted the truth, saying that these assets originally belonged to Neen. He claimed Mr. Cho tricked him out of them and sent him to jail. That was why her mother always had to endure it, planning to eventually take back all the Cho family's assets. This made Neen completely confused. She asked her mother what the truth really was. Elsewhere, Kot invited Raywit to his house to discuss work. Just as they finished eating and started the meeting, both Raywit and Kot started itching all over because they were allergic to river prawns. Tida hurriedly went to the car to get allergy medicine and took care of Raywit. Raywit teased Tida, saying that since she was so thoughtful, he might have to promote her to be his secretary. But Tida said this was simply her responsibility. At that moment, Anita saw them talking and laughing intimately, and she felt incredibly sad deep down. Kot comforted her, saying he would find a way for Raywit to see Anita's feelings. He said that when Tida realized it, she would back off on her own. After work, Tida was curious why they were both allergic to prawns. Plus, looking closely, they looked a bit alike, so she suspected they were long-lost biological brothers. Raywit immediately asked for Kot's mother's name. Learning that the name didn't match his mother Sara's name, he confirmed that Kot was not his younger brother. To let Raywit see Anita's heart, Kot suggested playing a game called Truth or Dare to relax. Before starting, he made a rule that if anyone chose truth, they absolutely could not lie. Kot and Anita had planned it beforehand. They would intentionally spin the bottle toward Anita so Kot would have a chance to ask about her feelings for Raywit. Anita would take that opportunity to confess, saying she wanted to be Raywit's girlfriend. That way, once Tida knew, she wouldn't compete with Anita anymore. When the game started, no one expected the bottle to point straight at Raywit. He chose Dare, and because Tida provoked him, he was forced to reluctantly do a childish dance. In the next round, the bottle pointed at Tida again. Afraid of dancing awkwardly in front of everyone, she chose Truth. Before Kot could say anything, Raywit quickly asked her first what she thought of him. Just while Tida was confused and didn't know how to answer, Raywit received a call saying Neen was missing, which immediately interrupted the game. Meanwhile, because Neen found out about her background, she went to a bar to drink her sorrows away. She couldn't accept that the father who raised her was the villain who stole her biological father's assets and sent him to prison. A friend of Raywit spotted Neen and immediately told him. At that moment, Neen was drunk and being dragged by two bad men to get a room. Raywit arrived just in time, preventing a tragedy, but Neen still didn't want to go home. Raywit said that even though he always had a prejudice against her mother, Neen was still his sister no matter what. He hoped she could tell him what happened and swore to keep it a secret. Neen thought about the words her mother said, that no one in this house truly loved them, and Raywit didn't genuinely consider her his sister either. So, she lied that she was upset because of a terminal illness. But Tita knew she was lying just by looking at her. When they got home, the stepmother worriedly hugged her daughter, but Neen pushed her away. Mr. Cho asked his daughter what happened, and the stepmother signaled her not to tell the truth. Neen had to make up a similar excuse to let the matter pass. Upstairs, Raywit wondered what secret his sister was hiding. Elsewhere, Kot once again encouraged Anaita not to give up. He advised her to be like Tita and view Raywit's difficulties as important matters in her own life, so she would also become an important person in his life. The two of them agreed and decided to continue fighting for the person they loved. The next day, Raywit went to find Tita. He suspected that Neen was definitely hiding a secret. Tita thought this matter must be related to Radet. Otherwise, Neen wouldn't have had such a strong reaction when she saw his face. Raywit hoped she could find a way to get the truth out of Neen. Right after that, Raywit asked Tita about her answer from yesterday, asking if she had ever had feelings for him. Tita said the time to answer had passed. Just as Raywit continued to press her, his phone rang again. It turned out that Anaita, wanting to win Raywit's heart, had found out that the person who caused his stepmother's accident was the fired secretary. Raywit immediately went to find the secretary to ask for the reason, but learned from his wife that he had been missing for a long time. She had been searching endlessly but had no clues. Raywit suspected that the secretary definitely held the stepmother's secret, especially regarding the company fraud, but it was a pity there was no longer a chance to know the truth. At this moment, Tita thought that relying on just the two of them, they couldn't investigate the whole matter, and they needed to find more people to help. The girl accidentally overheard the conversation between her mother and her biological father, that they were plotting to poison her adoptive father, then seize his billions in assets. Knowing her mother's evil plot, the girl was both shocked and devastated. Not long ago, Neen went to the hospital with her mother for a checkup. She accidentally learned from her previous doctor that as long as she kept her spirits up and exercised, her asthma had a very good chance of being cured. Neen didn't understand why her mother never told her about this, and instead said that she might be sickly her whole life. She questioned her mother why she lied. Seeing the cat was out of the bag, her mother confessed that everything she did was out of love for her. If her adoptive father knew her illness was cured, he might no longer pity and spoil her. The shares and position she currently had were all due to pity, not talent. Her mother's actions were hard for Neen to accept at first. Unexpectedly, she also suggested that Neen continue to hide her illness until she won all the family's assets. Under her mother's pleading, Neen finally agreed. Next, they went to Radet's place to have a meal together. Radet once again stuffed Neen's head with false information that her adoptive father was the villain, and told her to help him get rid of Raywit and his father, turning the company into their family of three's property. Her mother also forced her daughter to obey her biological father's orders. To quickly eliminate Mr. Cho, Radet gave the stepmother a packet of drugs that damage internal organs, telling her to give it to Mr. Cho every day. Before long, he would lose consciousness and pass away peacefully. By then, seizing the assets would be much easier. The conversation between the two was accidentally overheard by Neen. That evening, the stepmother served Mr. Cho the medicine, lying that the doctor had prescribed him some stress relief pills. Neen stood at the door, watching her adoptive father take the medicine, then quietly left without any emotion. Mr. Cho, who had no idea he was being poisoned, even praised having his stepmother as his wife as his good fortune. Since helping Raywit find evidence to clear the accusations, Anaita had gained a lot more confidence in winning back Raywit's love. With Kot's encouragement, she accelerated the progress of building the menu for the resort. Her promotional plan also made Raywit very satisfied. Anaita then asked him for a reward, a finger heart, implicitly showing her love. As for Kot, he also began to pursue aggressively. Under Anaita's advice, he went to invite Tita to the movies. After watching, Tita couldn't help but exclaim how great it would be if there was someone like the male lead in real life. Kot told her to turn around and look. Maybe she would find that person. Although not as perfect as in the movie, he would never let the person he loved be sad. This moment, Raywit arrived with a tense face, showing great dissatisfaction with the two of them going on a date. He lied that he had something private to discuss with Tita, heartlessly sending Kot home. Raywit told Tita to pass a message to her best friend that the hiring procedures were done, and they could start working tomorrow to execute the plan. After speaking, he intended to return. Originally, he wanted to invite Tita to dinner, but it seemed she was already full. Tita intentionally provoked Raywit, saying that both her stomach and heart were filled. Raywit immediately exploded, reminding Tita that he didn't care what she ate or who she watched movies with, but she shouldn't let it affect the work he was in charge of, because he didn't like irresponsible people. This rage left Tita standing dumbfounded, feeling confused. The next day, Tita recounted Raywit's unusual behavior to her best friend. Her best friend immediately recognized it as a sign of jealousy, suspecting that Raywit definitely liked her. Tita hurriedly denied it, saying Raywit absolutely couldn't fall in love with her again. Her best friend's family of 3 had finished disguising themselves. The brother pretended to be an engineer, installing cameras in every corner to monitor the stepmother's every move. The sister-in-law worked as a cleaning staff to spy for information, but was recognized by the stepmother as looking very familiar. Luckily, Saku, disguised as a salesperson, pretended to meet them by chance to rescue them. He said the two used to know each other at his cousin's factory, and had both recently come to Bangkok to work. Only then did the stepmother drop her suspicion, assuming she misremembered. Next, Saku started flattery, wanting to work and learn from the most talented stepmother in the company. But she said she didn't like bootlickers who only knew how to talk but not work, telling Saku to show his ability first. Both immediately felt the stepmother wasn't easy to deal with. However, with her excellent social skills, the sister-in-law befriended all the employees in the company within a few days. She learned from the accountant that previously, a former manager had secretly embezzled funds for 10 years, and then all employees in that department were fired for fraud. She wondered why the stepmother, who was usually very careful, was suddenly deceived. Anxious to know the results, Tita called her friend's sister-in-law to ask if there was any new news. She unexpectedly discovered Neen crying in the yard, so she walked over and asked if she was hiding something from everyone. Unexpectedly, the usually gentle Neen suddenly got angry, telling Tita that as a maid, she shouldn't cross the line and meddle in other people's business. However, after Neen left, Tita was suddenly kidnapped. To help her boss investigate his stepmother's plot, the maid sought out friends to form a secret investigation team. However, their movements were discovered and photographed by another maid in the house. This person used those photos to force Tita to reveal what they were plotting. Otherwise, she would immediately send the photos to Dom, the housekeeper. It turned out that while Tita and Raywit were discussing finding help, Dom was watching them from afar, then ordered Uncle Khan to follow them to see where they went, and that was how those photos were taken. Luckily, Uncle Khan never reported back to Dom. Having no other choice, Tita had to recommend them to Raywit, so they could also join the secret team and help the plan finish faster. Her best friend thought Uncle Khan knew everything, so she accidentally revealed Tita's identity and her relationship with Raywit. Tita once again had to lie that she was a novelist, and joining this family was intentionally arranged to experience the character, finish her new novel, and hoped Uncle Khan and the chubby maid Tong could keep the secret. Next, everyone began reporting news to Raywit. Saku's brother, through restoring deleted surveillance videos, discovered that for the past 2 months, the stepmother would disappear into hidden corners to make phone calls, looking around for fear of being seen. He suspected what she was discussing must be a secret, and 2 months ago was also the time when Sia and Raywit had conflicts. Both the secretary cum CFO were found leaking data and embezzling, and the 2 people connected to the stepmother had lost their lives. Raywit didn't know if this was a coincidence, or if the stepmother was pulling the strings behind the scenes. After everyone discussed, Tita told her best friend to find a way to join the stepmother's team to find evidence more easily. The sister-in-law continued to befriend the finance department to find out if there was any other embezzlement. The brother would coordinate with the company's IT team, finding ways to extract any evidence that might exist on computers. Everyone was united, determined to make the stepmother face the consequences she deserved. That evening, Raywit took Tita to their first date spot for dinner. Memories of the 2 of them that year suddenly flooded back into Tita's mind. What impressed her most deeply was that at that time she wanted a bouquet of flowers, but Raywit seemed uninterested. Raywit explained that bought flowers would wither very quickly. He looked around, hoping the flower girl from years ago would reappear. Just as Tita went to pay, the matchmaking angel for the 2 of them finally appeared. Raywit bought a whole basket of flowers to give to Tita, thanking her for always helping him, and making someone who disliked giving flowers like him change his mind. He said a person like him, even if he lived for 100 years, wouldn't find happiness, but just seeing the smile of his son or the person he loved would make him feel very happy. He said he had never given flowers to anyone, and Tita was the first and only one. Tita didn't understand why it was her. Raywit lied that it was to comfort someone who just had a breakup, hoping these roses could bloom in her heart. Afterwards, Raywit returned home and found his father passed out on the floor. After he woke up, He suggested his father see a doctor, but Mr. Cho insisted he was fine, just under too much work pressure, and only needed a little rest. Meanwhile, worried about the father who raised her since childhood, Neen told her mother to stop giving Mr. Cho the medicine, as she didn't want to be an accomplice in harming her father. But her mother said she wouldn't stop, and once again warned her daughter that she only had one father, and that was Radette. She hoped in the future she wouldn't bring this up again. For the happiness of their family of 3, she had endured for 20 years, and absolutely wouldn't allow her daughter to ruin all the plans. The next day, the stepmother gave all the company's project documents to Radette. This time he was determined to take down Mr. Cho, knowing that after the meeting at the company, Raywit seemed to understand and sympathize with his father more. This made Radette a bit worried, deciding to take action. He knew well that what Mr. Cho feared most was betrayal, and he wanted Mr. Cho to taste the feeling of being betrayed by his son. Therefore, Radette went to the resort to find Raywit. Lying that before Raywit's mother was kicked out of the house, she instructed him to do one thing: wait until Raywit grew up and was capable enough, then tell him to leave the company and start his own business. Raywit didn't understand why his mother made such a request. His responsibility was to make the company develop better, so why leave? Radette said the 3 of them were the company's founders, but Mr. Cho wanted to be the sole owner, so he falsely accused him and Raywit's mother of having an illicit relationship. Even his imprisonment was Mr. Cho's plot. But the truth Raywit heard was completely opposite to what Radette said. Radette said he only had the responsibility to convey what he knew, and this was also Raywit's mother's wish. Before leaving, Radette told Raywit to think carefully. If he wanted to go out and work on his own, he was very willing to cooperate. Raywit asked Radette what caused him and his father to turn from friends to enemies. Radette lied again that he loved Raywit's mother. To him, Raywit was like his own son, but it was a pure love. There was no such thing as an affair. Raywit asked about his mother's whereabouts again, but Radette said that since leaving prison, he had searched everywhere without a single clue, and promised if he found her, he would let him know immediately. Raywit immediately fell into a state of confusion, half believing and half doubting Radette's words. A day earlier, Anita planned to confess her feelings to Raywit, so she asked Kat to temporarily play the role of Raywit to practice with her. After a deeply emotional confession, the two hugged. Kat, getting too into character, suddenly felt his heart race. When they arrived at the resort, they caught Raywit and Tita hugging. Tita hurriedly explained it was just an accident. Although Anita was a bit skeptical, under Kat's persuasion she let it slide. When filming the promotional video began, Tita watched the two standing next to each other, a perfect match like a golden couple. Occasionally they even shared sweet gestures, causing an indescribable sense of loss to well up in her heart. When they huddled together again to discuss work, it made Tita extremely jealous. After finishing the work, Anita gathered all her courage to confess her feelings to Raywit. However, before she could even speak, she was rejected by him. Raywit said that besides work, he didn't want to discuss anything else, and moreover he already had someone he liked. Hearing this, Anita couldn't hold back her tears, her heart aching. She turned to leave and sought out Kat, hoping for some comfort in his arms. Later, Tita wondered what Raywit had said to Anita to make her leave the resort crying. Raywit replied emotionally that he told Anita the person he loved was Tita. He confessed that 7 years ago he truly loved her. No matter how angry he was after the breakup, he could never forget Tita. In his eyes, she was always more special than all the other women who passed through his life. This sudden confession confused Tita, and she hurriedly hid in the bedroom, not daring to face Raywit anymore. After a few hours for both to calm down, Raywit pressed Tita for her inner thoughts. But Tita said she didn't love him at all, because she didn't want to be hurt again. Raywit then suggested using a kiss to prove it. If there was no rapid heartbeat, it meant there was truly no love. Just as the two were about to kiss, Tita suddenly blocked him with her hand, saying she really didn't love him, so there was no need to prove it. Forgiving him for hurting her in the past didn't mean she would fall for him again. Appearing in Raywit's life was only to seek inspiration for her novel and fulfill her mission of taking care of him, not hoping for their love to bloom again. But how could Raywit give up easily? He told Tita to wait and see, one day he would change her mind. Elsewhere, two heartbroken people were depressed all day. Kat once again schemed for Anita, suggesting she use Emotang as Cupid to shoot an arrow of love. This reminder immediately gave Anita a glimmer of hope. If Emotang wanted her to be his father's girlfriend, Raywit would surely not dare to refuse. Just as she was rejoicing unexpectedly, another strong rival was about to appear. Meanwhile, Thumb wanted Tita's mother to help convince Tita to give him another chance. But Tita's mother said he was completely unworthy of her daughter, and told Thumb never to set foot there again. But how could Thumb give up easily? He absolutely wouldn't let Tita slip through his fingers and swore that one day he would make this company belong solely to him. Therefore he sought out Anita, Raywit's son's mother, hoping she could return to the country and continue to be with Raywit. if she could become his wife again. She could not only pay off the huge debt her late husband left behind, but could even own countless assets. Tempted by money, Enicha threw away the wedding ring on her finger, telling Thumb to book her a one-way ticket back to the country immediately, because she would never return here again. A wealthy young lady was ordered to return to the country to help her benefactor's son solve his problems. Unexpectedly, the other person turned out to be her ex-boyfriend, whom she both loved and hated. Living together day and night, the CEO fell for her again and confessed his feelings deeply. But the young lady flatly refused, because she wasn't ready to love anyone yet. Tita went to her mother to ask for help and recounted the story of how the two of them used to date. Her mother advised her daughter to ask her own heart. After learning about her daughter's feelings when she was near Raywit, she was sure that her daughter liked him too. But Tita currently didn't want to start a new relationship yet. Her mother told Tita to end the mission early, since Raywit could now handle every problem on his own anyway. Tita asked for permission to finish the current investigation work before returning. Her mother happily agreed, but on the condition that she must not develop any more feelings for Raywit, because no matter what, they could not be together. At Mr. Fitz's company, Saku's sister-in-law found an excuse to lure the security guard away, so her husband could smoothly sneak into the stepmother's office, crack the computer password, and copy all the information inside. Saku, through investigating some misconduct by suppliers, was finally valued by the stepmother and successfully joined her team. Everyone immediately called Raywit for an emergency meeting, discovering that the suppliers the stepmother cooperated with were almost all small, untrustworthy companies, and they were all her distant relatives. Everyone suspected the stepmother had set up a private company to take on the group's projects, but didn't know whose pocket the money went into, because she definitely wouldn't dare put it in her own account. Saku's sister-in-law also discovered that the company's books had been altered so that Mr. Cho would no longer suspect any embezzlement. Raywit thought that the stepmother couldn't have come up with these plans by herself, and there was definitely a strategist behind supporting her. Therefore, he processed the paperwork for the couple to quit their jobs, so they could focus on investigating who was helping the stepmother deceive the company. Meanwhile, Radette wanted Neen to stop Raywit from running the resort business, and wait until he was fired from the company. Then her mother would find a way for Neen to take over. But Neen absolutely did not want to conspire with him. Angry that her biological father was teaching her dirty business tricks to betray the person who raised her, and to whom she was indebted, to make Neen listen to him, Radette fabricated a set of evidence about Mr. Cho monopolizing the company back then, saying that after viewing it, she would know the whole truth. After viewing it, Neen was extremely agitated, and hatred welled up inside her. Neen, having completely turned to the dark side, promised her biological father that she would definitely turn the resort into a pile of rubble. Upon arriving home, Neen was pestered by Mo Tang, who wanted to play with her. Filled with hatred, she coldly shouted at and scolded Mo Tang. This scene was accidentally seen by Inaita and caught. Neen hurriedly explained that because Mo Tang scared her, she was startled and panicked. Mo Tang sadly ran upstairs to tell his father. Tita was curious and didn't understand why Neen had suddenly become so irritable. After the birthday party started, Tita watched Inaita and Raywit sitting next to each other, looking like a happy family of three, and felt that Inaita was the one most suitable for Raywit. Right after Mo Tang made a wish and blew out the candles, his biological mother, Inaita, suddenly appeared. This made Raywit both surprised and shocked. Inaita said that she returned this time to fulfill her responsibility as Mo Tang's mother, and would not abandon the father and son again, then rushed into Raywit's arms. Raywit pushed Inaita away and told her to get lost immediately. From the moment she abandoned Mo Tang, she no longer had any relationship with them. Inaita said that if she could turn back time, she absolutely wouldn't have left back then, hoping Raywit could give her a chance to be a mother, so they could make Mo Tang the happiest person together, and said that Raywit should understand well what the pain of losing a mother is like. At this moment, Tita stood aside watching Inaita return, and immediately fell into memories. That year, Inaita, who was carrying Raywit's child, found Tita and showed her a recording of Raywit promising to love only her. Hoping Tita would stop dating Raywit, Tita painfully suggested breaking up with Raywit, not wanting to be deceived by his sweet words anymore, and told him to change, take responsibility for the child and Inaita, and stop acting as terribly as before. When breaking up, Raywit asked if she really loved him, but Tita didn't answer, leaving with a broken heart. Back in the present, Raywit didn't want his son to see Inaita's face, so he angrily kicked her out. Tita chased after her to advise Inaita to leave, but unexpectedly, Inaita blurted out her true identity and decided to have a clear talk with Tita. She used the secret to threaten her, telling Tita to get out of her life, saying that if she revealed it, Tita should know what would happen. But Tita was no pushover either. The girl had become pregnant with the wealthy son, but for the sake of money, she cruelly abandoned both her child and her boyfriend. 6 years later, to pay off the huge debt her husband left behind, she returned to her ex-boyfriend's arms, begging for a reunion. Tida wanted to advise Inai-cha to leave Raewit, but unexpectedly, Inai-cha used Tida's true identity to threaten her, telling her not to meddle in her business and decided to have a clear talk with her. Tida hurriedly sought help from her best friend, reluctantly having to confess to everyone her identity as the future chairwoman and her mission of pretending to be a maid upon returning home. Apart from her best friend and Thumb, no one knew about this, but Inai-cha knew everything about her, so someone must have told her. At this point, Tida asked her group of 3 close friends to immediately investigate all information about Inai-cha, learning that she didn't return this time to take care of Mo-tang, but because she urgently needed money to pay off the massive debt left by her ex-husband. She used this to threaten Inai-cha, saying if she didn't want her purpose for returning to be exposed, she should stay silent, and with just a few sentences, she extracted the information that it was Thumb who revealed her identity to Inai-cha. Inai-cha also intentionally provoked Tida, claiming the reason she was being a busybody was that she was afraid Raewit would be stolen away again, since back in university she had defeated Tida. This time, Inai-cha thought Tida would still lose to her. Elsewhere, Nin told her mother about Inai-cha's return. The stepmother decided she must quickly make the company hers so no more incidents would occur. She gave Nin a new packet of fast-acting drugs, telling her to be in charge of giving them to Mr. Cho. Nin then hatched another plan to sabotage the resort. She told Dom to send everyone in the house out and let no one go up to the second floor. Dom immediately ordered Tida and a few others to go to the market, instructing them not to go up to the second floor to work after returning. But Tida discovered that the items on the list were all things recently purchased, feeling Dom's actions were very suspicious. She told Uncle Khan and the chubby maid Tong to pretend to be a bit hungry, wait until after eating to go to the market, and invited Dom to join them. Tida took the opportunity to sneak up to the second floor to investigate. She saw Raewit's door slightly open, looked around and saw no one, so she closed the door with peace of mind. At this moment, Nin suddenly appeared from behind, questioning what Tida was doing up there. Tida explained that the shopping money Dom gave was a bit little, so she wanted to find her to ask for more. Nin said she would pass the message to Dom to transfer money to her soon, then chased Tida downstairs. Unexpectedly, Nin had just been in the room and stolen Raewit's tablet, then sent all the resort's documents to Radet. Meanwhile, Tida was wondering whether to tell Raewit about Inai-cha, because no matter how selfish Inai-cha was for money, deep down maternal love might truly exist. Just then, Raewit suddenly burst in. He didn't believe Inai-cha would be a good mother. Years ago she left him for money, and her return this time might also be for money. He asked Tida if she agreed to be Mo-tang's mother. As soon as the words were spoken, the 3 friends nearby immediately stirred up the atmosphere. Returning to the main topic, Raewit asked them to investigate what relationship Radet and his stepmother had. Tida didn't understand. If he was truly the mastermind, why would he openly step into Raewit's life? Wouldn't acting in the shadows be easier? Moreover, they hadn't found any evidence on him. But Raewit said not finding it doesn't mean it's not there. Criminals always leave clues. To successfully become Raewit's wife, Inai-cha sought out Inai-ta to negotiate. She said she genuinely wanted to be Mo-tang's mother this time, hoping Inai-ta would voluntarily withdraw and not compete with her. Although Inai-ta loved Raewit very much, wanting Mo-tang to have a complete and happy family, she agreed without hesitation. Kot realized Inai-cha seemed to be carrying out a shady plan, so he reminded Inai-ta to be extremely careful. Next, Inai-cha continued to play the victim to gain Raewit's sympathy. She lied that after leaving him, not a day went by that she didn't miss him, and she had always felt guilty over the years. Although living in torment, she had to endure it. Then she showed Raewit a fake photo of domestic abuse, saying she was finally free now and sincerely wanted to make up for past mistakes. This act successfully gained Raewit's pity. He comforted Inai-cha not to blame herself. Inai-cha also took the opportunity to say she still loved him very much, then kissed him passionately. This scene was accidentally seen by Tida, who came to find Raewit. Raewit hurriedly pushed Inai-cha away, telling her not to do that again. Inai-cha asked him if he remembered the promise from years ago, that he wouldn't love anyone else but her. That year, when Raewit learned Inai-cha was pregnant, he decided to take responsibility for her and the child. But what Inai-cha wanted besides responsibility was love. At that time they had broken up, and Raewit's feelings for her had faded, unsure if he could love Inai-cha again. So, he promised that during the time they were together, he would absolutely not love anyone else. Their conversation was overheard by Tida standing in the shadows, her heart filled with pain. Inai-cha had used Tida to eliminate all rivals around Raewit, to find happiness again. When she said goodbye to Tida, she swore that this time she wouldn't let anyone steal Raewit. And Raewit also told Tida that he would never see her again. Unexpectedly, many years later, the two met again. Tita asked him why he said he would never see her again back then. Raywit said that if they met again, he might fall in love with Tita again. Anicha was just his son's mother, but Tita was the most important person, the one he loved most in this life, and that would never change. Tita woke up from the memory, hurriedly hid, but was still discovered by Anicha. She intentionally asked Raywit what happened that Tita became a maid, and if it was because of him that she didn't want her to return. Raywit said it had nothing to do with Tita, hoped Anicha wouldn't tell anyone who Tita was, and told her to get lost immediately, no matter what. He wouldn't let her see Emotang again. Anicha was unwilling to accept this, so she pretended to faint, then intentionally fell into Raywit's arms. Tita hurriedly ran out asking what happened. After waking up, Anicha pretended to accept reality, that no matter what, she couldn't defeat Tita. But she didn't beg to continue being Raywit's wife, only hoping he could give her a chance to fulfill her duty as a mother. Not wanting Emotang to encounter the same problems as Raywit, Raywit asked for Tita's opinion. Anicha then suggested letting Emotang decide whether she was a superfluous person in the boy's life or an important one. The girl helped her comatose father back to his room to rest, then heartlessly pushed him to the ground, because she wasn't actually the tycoon's biological daughter, but the love child of her mother and her lover. Their family of 3 had plotted to slowly poison the tycoon to seize his billions in assets. Raywit came home and discovered his father passed out on the floor once again. He worriedly asked Neen if she did something to cause their father too much stress. Unexpectedly, Neen got angry, claiming Raywit was slandering her. She proactively suggested taking their father to see a doctor to prove her innocence, so no one would suspect her. But Mr. Cho insisted he was fine and refused to go to the hospital. The stepmother had to invite a doctor to the house to give him a full body checkup. Neen warned Raywit not to accuse her in front of everyone without evidence. Raywit was curious why Neen suddenly changed like she was a different person. Neen explained that she was just protecting herself. After the checkup, the doctor said it was just due to too much pressure and told Mr. Cho to persist in taking his medicine every day to get better. Unexpectedly, this person wasn't a doctor at all. The stepmother had instructed him absolutely not to let Raywit know about this. As for Cho, not knowing how long he had left to live, he said some sentimental words to Neen that he always loved her very much, to the point that he could give her everything. The reason he handed the company over to Raywit to manage was because he wanted him to lead the company to continuous growth, and also to leave the two of them a generous inheritance. Neen suddenly discovered that Mr. Cho wasn't as selfish as Radette had said. She was momentarily confused about whether to continue the plan or not, but after leaving the room, evil still won over good. She kept telling herself that he never loved her and her mother. In another development, Raywit told the secret group about his father's illness getting worse. He didn't understand why, since the stepmother and Neen started taking care of his father, giving him medicine every day according to the doctor's orders, his condition was getting more serious. Saku's sister-in-law hit the nail on the head, suspecting if he was being poisoned. This immediately made everyone feel creepy, and they had to quickly get Mr. Cho's medicine to verify. Tita comforted Raywit not to worry too much, saying she would find a way to get that pill. At this moment, Saku suddenly received a call from the stepmother, saying there was important work she needed to do immediately. The stepmother gave Saku a client list, told her to help schedule online meetings, and said she must keep it absolutely secret. But Neen snatched it and demanded to be in charge herself, saying that the list of foreign travel agencies coming to stay at the resort was extremely important information, and absolutely couldn't let anyone know, because now they couldn't trust anyone. If they made a mistake, Raywit would know they were dealing with him. She told her mother to hand over all this work for her to handle, and she would definitely find every way to block it, so the resort wouldn't have a single guest. As for Anicha, she invited Raywit to the university where they used to study together, wanting to let Emotang understand more about her. She recounted the entire process of how the two of them met, got to know each other, and fell in love to Emotang, her face filled with a happy smile. Regardless of what Anicha's purpose was, at this moment Emotang truly felt maternal love. Raywit stood aside watching, extremely amazed. His son had never gotten close to a stranger so quickly. Tita thought that perhaps that was the bond between mother and child. Looking at this scene, she fell into a difficult situation. Remembering today at the company, Raywit asked her how she would agree to be his girlfriend. Tita said that if she fell in love again, she hoped this would be the last time, because she really didn't want to be heartbroken anymore. Raywit said he would let time prove it. Tita asked Raywit if he wanted Anicha to return to fulfill her responsibility as a mother. Raywit felt that making a decision now was still too early, and needed to observe for a while longer, because he didn't want to disappoint Emotang again. Just like that, Anicha started playing the emotional card with Tita. She admitted that returning this time was truly for money, but unexpectedly, when being near Emotang, she developed deep love and affection, and also felt the feeling of being a mother. She was convinced she could change Raewit's mind and make him love her again. But as long as Tida was still here, she couldn't become Emotang's mother. Enicha shamelessly demanded that Tida leave Raewit's life, saying it was all for Emotang's happiness. Tida was confused by this request, and also hesitated about what to decide, because she discovered that Enicha could also be a good mother. When returning home, her best friend comforted Tida that what others do isn't important. What's important is what she thinks in her heart. The next day, after everyone finished discussing work, the sister-in-law, who loved gossip, asked Raewit how he decided to handle Enicha's matter. Raewit said that until Enicha could prove she truly loved Emotang, he wouldn't make any decisions yet. Although Raewit suspected his sister was poisoning their father and really wanted to find a way to verify it, he didn't know how to open the safe containing the medicine. The best friend said this was too simple. Tida immediately told Raewit that he had to stall the mother and daughter by any means necessary until the safe could be opened. Raewit immediately called an emergency meeting, in his capacity as acting CEO, requiring the stepmother and Nin to report on the progress of the projects they were in charge of. Meanwhile, Saku's brother and his wife disguised themselves as repairmen and infiltrated the villa. To lure Dom away, the chubby mate Tong lied that a celebrity named Ku was holding a fan meeting nearby. Dom, who had been his fan for 6 years, excitedly went to get an autograph. The couple took the opportunity to sneak into Nin's room and stole 2 pills from the safe. As for Enicha, she was heartbroken because she had completely lost Raewit. Kot suggested she try opening her heart to the closest friend by her side, the person she talked to every day. Just as Enicha was thinking about who that was, her best friend Din suddenly appeared. The two hadn't seen each other in a long time and were extremely excited, having countless things to talk about. Kot, who secretly loved Enicha, watched them being intimate, and couldn't help but feel a bit sad in his heart. Enicha told Kot that she already knew who she needed to open her heart to. Unexpectedly, they were just best friends and could absolutely not develop into lovers. Din said that earlier when he was joking, Kot seemed a bit unhappy. He guessed that Kot definitely liked Enicha, but Enicha didn't believe it. Den decided to help her prove it, pretending to call another girl, intentionally letting Kot hear that he was dating 2 people at the same time. Kot indeed fell for the trick, angrily scolding Den for deceiving Enicha's feelings. Den lied that he had the right to choose what was best for him, and questioned why Kot reacted so strongly, asking if he also liked Enicha. Kot finally poured his heart out, admitting he loved Enicha very much and wouldn't let anyone hurt her. Den took out his phone and asked Enicha if she heard that. Kot was confused, turning around to see Enicha walking toward him and saying she heard it very clearly. Den told Enicha to try looking at the people around her, saying that loving someone who loved her dearly would be happier. Enicha couldn't accept it right away, wanting to continue being just normal friends first. But Kot was already in love with her and confessed once again in front of everyone. Unexpectedly, Raewit and Tida walked in just then, very shocked by the two's rapid progress. After a few hours of catching up on the gossip, Raewit asked Enicha to find her old classmate to test the pill. At this moment, Enicha brought Emotang there to eat by coincidence. Emotang happily said that hanging out with his mom was the most fun thing in the world. Enicha also invited Raewit to eat with them, so their family of 3 would be complete. During the meal, under Enicha's instigation, Emotang asked his father to help convince his grandfather to let his mother move in. Seeing his father agree, Emotang was very happy, since he was born. This was the first time Enicha had seen Emotang so happy, as if the missing warmth had been replenished. Although Enicha hadn't returned to be Raewit's wife yet, very soon both she and Tida would become third wheels. At this moment, Tida felt even more conflicted. That evening, Raewit told his father about his suspicions, telling him not to take any medicine until the results were in. Under Raewit's pleading, his father reluctantly agreed. When Nin came to give him the medicine, Mr. Cho lied that he wasn't feeling well and refused. The next day, Raewit received a call from the receptionist saying that all the resort's guests had canceled their reservations. All of this was orchestrated by Nin from behind the scenes. She had made a deal with nearby hotels to transfer all the customers over there. This was just the beginning. Later, she wanted Raewit to taste true hell. Seeing the situation becoming increasingly unstable, Raewit discussed this with the secret group, suspecting that someone was definitely pulling the strings. This moment, Thumb suddenly showed up. Raewit pulled Tida into his arms, telling him to stay away from his woman. Thumb asked Raewit, when Enicha returned to be his son's mother, what right did he have to date Tida? Raewit said he wouldn't lose the person he loved for anyone. But Thumb argued that both he and Raewit had done unfaithful things. If Raewit could be given a chance, why couldn't he be forgiven just once? Tida said it was because she didn't love him at all, and never would. The person she loved was Raewit. Raewit immediately smiled smugly and asked Tida if what she just said was the truth. But what worried Tida was, now that Emotang had both parents, what was she? Raewit said that she was the missing piece in his heart, not a third wheel. Tida's appearance had filled his life. Just then, Anita called to say that the test results were in. Tita hurried back to the villa to get ready for work. Dom had brought Uncle Khan and the chubby maid out to confront them. It turned out that Neen had discovered a few pills were missing. So she used the threat of calling the police to force them to tell the truth. Things having reached this point, Tita had to admit that she had ordered the two of them to do it and asked Neen if Mr. Cho knew about this. This moment Mr. Cho had something to say to Raywit and angrily told him to come home immediately. This stepmother was too cruel. To eliminate her daughter-in-law Inai Cha from dividing the inheritance, she set a trap to separate the mother and son. Unexpectedly, something went unplanned. Her grandson, overwhelmed with grief, got into a car accident. Not long ago, Mr. Cho scolded his son for once again slandering his wife. He threw a test report at Raywit. Raywit looked at the results, which perfectly matched the ones he had commissioned. The medicine didn't reveal any harmful substances to the body. Turned out that earlier, when Neen came to give her father medicine, Mr. Cho flatly refused, no matter how much she persuaded him. She immediately reported this to her mother, assuming Raywit must have been suspicious. To prevent him from discovering the truth, Neen quickly swapped the poison in the safe. Now that the matter was exposed, Raywit had nothing left to say. As he was preparing to leave, his stepmother called him back, saying Raywit was hiding a shady plan and mentioned Inai Cha's return to be Emotang's mother. Neen pressed Raywit, asking what his purpose was in letting someone their father hated stay. Raywit was about to explain, but Mr. Cho said he would never accept Inai Cha as Emotang's mother. She had no right to stay here, and didn't even deserve to spend a single baht of his. After speaking, his body suddenly felt unwell, and he collapsed onto the bed. Raywit intended to step forward to care for him, but his father yelled at him to get lost. The stepmother and Neen smiled a triumphant but disgusting smile. After being fired by the stepmother, Tita let Uncle Khan and the chubby maid stay temporarily at her house. She took them to her villa and confessed that her pretending to be a maid wasn't to write a novel. Raywit asked if she had any other secrets he didn't know. Tita took out a photo taken with her mother and asked Raywit if he recognized the woman in the picture. Raywit immediately recognized Auntie Fawn, who took care of him when he was young and had made a promise to him. Tita said that was her mother. That year after being fired, she went into business with her father and successfully opened a cleaning service company abroad. She returned this time to fulfill the promise her mother made years ago, to help Raywit overcome difficulties and become a completely new person. If she completed the mission, she would be given the management of the company. This moment, Anita happily asked if she was about to go back. Raywit hurriedly held Tita back, wanting her to stay by his side. Tita promised that she would never leave him again. That evening, Raywit thanked Mrs. Fawn for sending Tita to help him, and begged her to let Tita continue to stay, promising to take good care of her. But Tita felt uneasy about publicizing their relationship, worried that it would affect Raywit's relationship with his father. Raywit used the very method she taught him to comfort her, telling her to just smile to relieve pressure, and saying that the two of them would definitely overcome all difficulties. No matter what happened, he would never let go of Tita's hand. In another development, the stepmother's next goal was to deal with the enemy named Inai Cha. She knew well that Inai Cha's return was to use little Emotang to seize assets. If Emotang kept demanding she be his mother, she feared Raywit's father would definitely soften because he spoiled Emotang very much. So the mother and daughter came up with a perfect plan. The stepmother used the excuse of helping Inai Cha move into the house to trick her into coming to the company for a meeting. She went straight to the point, stating Inai Cha's purpose clearly, then handed her a check for 50 million baht, demanding she disappear from Emotang's life. Inai Cha didn't care about this small amount of money now. She declared that if she became Raywit's wife, the money she received would be several times more. The stepmother then used the father to pressure her, lying that he would find every way to make her disappear from Emotang's life. So the stepmother gave Inai Cha two choices. One was to take the money and live the rest of her life in comfort and wealth, or two was to continue pursuing an unrealistic dream. Fearing she would end up with nothing, Inai Cha decided to take the money. But the stepmother required her to promise to leave Emotang first. Tempted by money, Inai Cha guaranteed she would never let Emotang see her again. The stepmother continued to set the trap, intentionally questioning Inai Cha, asking if she didn't love Emotang. Inai Cha replied that Emotang's birth was an accident, and she never loved him. Unexpectedly, all these words were heard by Emotang. The boy was extremely heartbroken. The little maternal love he had just gained vanished into thin air. He cried and said that he would never love his mother again. Seeing the plan succeeded, Neen said that if Emotang refused to accept Inai Cha as his mother, then she had no right to take a single baht of his assets. After speaking, the stepmother tore up the check. Emotang brushed Inai Cha's hand away and ran off in pain. While crossing the street, the boy unfortunately got into a car accident. As for Raywit, he had just appointed Tita as his personal assistant. Upon arriving at the company, he happened to witness this scene and hurriedly took his son to the hospital for emergency treatment. Raewit scolded Inai-cha for not making Emotang the happiest person, but once again ruining her child's happiness for money. Tita thought Inai-cha still had a chance to correct her mistake. If all this was the stepmother's plan, she was also a victim. At this moment, the doctor came out to report that the surgery was successful and the boy was safe. Inai-cha, having no face to see her child because of her actions, cried and left the hospital. Tita worried Inai-cha would do something foolish, so she told Raewit to chase after her quickly. She would stay here to take care of Emotang. The woman, because of her greed, had caused her son to get into an accident. Tormented by guilt, she planned to end her life but was stopped by her ex-husband. He advised her not to add another burden of guilt to their son's life. Inai-cha confessed that she had taken on a mission from Thumb to sabotage his and Tida's relationship, but now she regretted it and decided to end everything. Raewit also chose to forgive her. Before leaving, Inai-cha also reminded Raewit to be careful of the evil woman named Neen. The reason the mother and daughter set a trap to get rid of her was that they were afraid she would fight for the family assets. She believed that they wouldn't let Raewit off the hook either. Right at this moment, Neen hypocritically came to the hospital to visit Emotang. Raewit declared that Inai-cha had told him everything, that she had used Emotang to drive Inai-cha away. But Neen said she was just testing to see if Inai-cha truly loved Emotang, and anyway she was used to being blamed. In Raewit's eyes, the mother and daughter were always bad people. After speaking, she intended to leave. Raewit scolded Neen that her actions were only causing more trouble and stirring up conflict. Tita advised them to speak nicely. After all, they were siblings living under the same roof. But this advice had no effect on Neen, because she was already used to living like that. Raewit didn't want to argue anymore, so he went straight back to the hospital room. Tita felt sorry for Emotang. He was so young but had become a sacrifice for the adults. Raewit took the opportunity to tease Tita, saying if she felt sorry for the boy, she should come comfort Emotang often in the role of a mother. While the two were wondering about Nin's change, Saku called to report that she had discovered important information about the stepmother. They discovered she had opened an account, and the financial director had embezzled company money and transferred it all into it. This meant the real embezzler was the stepmother. Through investigation, the couple also discovered a secret office, and the buyer was the stepmother. Surprisingly, the registration information for this company belonged to one of Redette's subsidiaries. The transaction account Redette used to help establish this company was the very account the stepmother had opened. The conclusion was that Redette and the director were both connected to the stepmother. It was just that currently there wasn't enough evidence. That evening, Raewit advised Tita to withdraw from the investigation because he didn't want her to be in any danger. However, Tita steadfastly stood by his side, saying she wanted to be with him until everything was brought to light. Raewit thanked her because after meeting again this time, Tita no longer walked away from him like before. He reached out his hand and Pinky swore with her once again, promising that they wouldn't repeat the separation of the past. Under the romantic night setting, it seemed like he would lean down to kiss her, but in the end, he just tilted his head, whispered goodnight in her ear, and turned to leave. The next day, Tita told Raewit about a clue she remembered. A few days ago, Dom had sent all the servants in the house out. She suspected that someone had definitely entered the room to gather information. So Raewit called Dom into his room and told her that important information on his iPad had been stolen. But Dom bewilderingly asked what that had to do with her. Raewit said a thief had entered his room, but Dom had no idea. This was negligence on the part of a housekeeper, so he decided to fire her. However, Raewit gave Dom a chance to think carefully about whether to tell the truth or leave this house. But Dom truly didn't know who had entered the room to steal the documents. Elsewhere, Raewit and Tita were discussing recent events, and he felt a headache coming on from all the stress. Tita immediately helped massage him to relax. Raewit thanked Tita for coming into his life, making him fall in love with her once again, and hoped she could massage him like this for the rest of his life. Just as Raewit was about to kiss Tita's hand, she flicked his forehead and urged him to hurry to work. Meanwhile, Kat took Inaita to his house to hang out and introduced her to his mother. During the meal, Inaita looked at Kat's mother and found her very familiar but couldn't remember where she had met her. Kat's mother tried to recall, but she suddenly got a headache. Kat pulled Inaita aside and told her that his mother had once been in a car accident. His father had saved her and stayed by her side to take care of her. Over time, love blossomed and the two got married. His mother no longer remembered anything from before the accident. He hoped Inaita wouldn't bring up the past, because recently her condition had been getting worse. Kat's mother said she had lost her memory for over 20 years, and Inaita was the first person she found familiar. Inaita thought she might be a relative or an important person in her life, but she really couldn't remember. Kat's mother excitedly told Inaita to let her know immediately when she remembered, as she really wanted to know who she used to be. Elsewhere, Neen reported the good news to Thumb. She had caused Raywit to lose all trust from his father. It turned out that Neen had cleverly asked her father why, since Raywit's resort renovation not only had no guests but was also in financial trouble. He still had the right to take the company's big projects to do on his own. Moreover, he had hired a maid like Tita as an assistant. Without experience, how could she complete important work? Neen stated bluntly that she was dissatisfied with Raywit controlling the company. So Raywit's father decided he had to take measures. Thumb said now they just needed to wait for the father and son to argue. Then they would find a way to split the company. But Neen didn't want to wait anymore. She wanted to kick that hateful father and son out of the house immediately and asked Thumb if there was a way. Thumb heard Neen say Raywit had an enemy who often caused trouble, so he immediately ordered his henchmen to do a job. The next day, Raywit took Tita to prepare for the meeting. Neen said that from today, he was no longer the person in charge of the meeting. Right after that, Raywit's father wheeled himself into the meeting room. He announced the revocation of Raywit's position as acting president. From now on, all projects would be handled by him and Neen. However, before this wave had passed, another wave came crashing in. This moment, a police officer arrived and asked to see Raywit. Just recently, the owner of a construction company was shot dead on the spot. Someone reported that Raywit had a business conflict with him, so the police wanted to invite him to the station to give a statement. Raywit agreed to cooperate with the investigation, but before leaving, he wanted to talk to his father. He suspected someone was intentionally framing him, just like the time he was falsely accused of harming people before. He assumed it was definitely his stepmother's doing again. Neen immediately stepped up and slapped Raywit, telling him not to shift the blame onto others. But Raywit didn't let it go easily. He believed he would soon find the person behind it. To prevent the scandal from damaging the company's reputation, the father removed Raywit from the position of vice president and let Neen replace him. Then, he cruelly kicked Raywit out. When he was preparing to leave the company, Neen chased after him, saying that father had handed the resort over to him to continue managing. She even mocked Raywit, wishing him to soon regain his honor to save that desolate resort. The news that Raywit was a suspect immediately became hot news in the papers. The reputation he tried to build collapsed in an instant. Thumb thought that if Raywit still escaped punishment this time, they had to find a way to eliminate him, making him have no place in the business world. Neen thought so too. Even if they couldn't finish Raywit off, they had to drag him down to the bottom. Although Raywit was not prosecuted, his return to the company would be very difficult. His father completely no longer trusted him. Tita comforted Raywit not to be discouraged. At least he still had the resort to maintain and take care of. Raywit decided to temporarily move to the resort to live. Tita was worried that leaving Raywit's father with that evil mother and daughter duo would be very dangerous. How could Raywit not be worried? But he was helpless because his father blindly trusted Neen. Raywit begged his father to try not taking the medicine for a while, to see if his condition would improve or get worse. Raywit just hoped his father could trust him one more time. Unexpectedly, the father angrily kicked Raywit out. As for Anita, because she couldn't remember where she had met Kat's mother, Kat asked if she had any photos. This sentence suddenly made Anita remember. Previously, Raywit had shown Anita the only photo of them together he had, asking her to help find his mother. She immediately called to invite Raywit to come to Kat's house. While everyone was curious about what Anita intended to announce, Kat's mother just happened to return from the vegetable garden. Raywit turned his head to look and froze right on the spot. The woman in front of him was the mother he had been missing for so long. Raywit's cry of mom amazed everyone. He stepped forward and hugged his mother tight, unable to believe she had truly returned to his side. But the amnesiac mother said that Kat was her only son. Raywit insisted that the person in front of him was his mother, and he could never forget. At that moment, a few fragmented memories flashed in the mother's mind. Then she had a severe headache and fainted. Anita said that before Raywit arrived, she had checked Kat. All his hobbies were exactly the same as Raywit's. Recalling that previously both were allergic to shrimp, and they liked each other very much the first time they met. All these things were absolutely not a coincidence. Tita suggested doing a DNA test for further confirmation. Raywit said there was no need, because just looking into his mother's eyes, childhood memories came flooding back into his mind. No matter what, Kat was his half-brother from the same mother. Raywit should have been happy but fell into a difficult situation, because his mother was living very happily now. If he helped her recover her memories, the terrible things his father did would torment her once again. Raywit couldn't bear to see his mother suffer, but Tita had a different perspective. If memories were not restored, the injustice of the affair would follow her forever. But if he helped his mother regain her memories, maybe she would have evidence to prove her innocence, tearing off the mask of the person who slandered her. Moreover, the problems they were currently facing might also be solved. After Tita's advice, Raywit decided to take his mother to the resort. There were memories engraved in her heart, If lucky, the buried memories might be revealed. Kot said his mother always wanted to know about the past, because she always felt there was something that needed to be resolved. Even though it wasn't clear what it was still deeply imprinted in her mind. Late at night in the quiet, Raywit said that after all problems were solved, the only remaining mission was to wait for Tida to nod and become his girlfriend. Tida shyly turned her face away. Raywit told her to give him some motivation, then suddenly kissed her. Before Tida could gift him a slap, Raywit hurriedly ran back to his room, leaving Tida alone dazed thinking about the kiss just now. In another development, Raywit's father felt there was something strange about his son's matter. Just like the time he was framed in the Sia case, maybe this time was the same. Neen continued to drive a wedge between them, saying that having no evidence didn't mean one could blame others. Raywit always assumed he was slandered by others, but he himself constantly blamed and hurt her mother. If Raywit was cleared again this time, he would definitely come to cause trouble with her and her mother again. Raywit's father declared that if his son continued like this, he would never go easy on him again. Seizing the opportunity, Neen suggested her father hold a press conference to explain Raywit's problem. So the next day, she released the news that she was appointed as vice president, would take over the company and solve the problems caused by Raywit, while committing to making the company #1 in the industry. Thinking the wave had passed, another wave came crashing in. At that moment, Raywit took everyone to the resort to help his mother regain her memory. They went to the piece of land his mother loved back then, where she always wanted to build a resort but never had the chance. Now, he and his father had built it together in her place. Mrs. Saare looked around but still had no recollection. Raywit showed her photos of his father, stepmother and Mrs. Fawn, but she still didn't recognize anyone. When he showed her the photo of Redette, his mother suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. She tried to recall the past. After the car accident that year, a gunman intended to finish her off on the spot. Fortunately, Kot's father passed by and intervened in time to save her. But when she woke up, she had lost all her memory. Kot's father didn't know how to help her, so he took her home to care for her. Mrs. Saare snapped out of her memory. Although she didn't know who this man was, he made her remember the accident. And that accident wasn't random. Someone wanted to kill her. Only Redette left a deep impression on her, making everyone suspect that he was the one who ordered the hit on Raywit's mother. In the evening, Mrs. Saare apologized to Raywit. If she really was his mother, suddenly disappearing and never returning to visit must have made him miss her very much. Raywit said that he was small then, but still remembered how warm his mother's hug was. Raywit asked his mother to hug him one more time. At this moment, both mother and son cried like rain. This hug was 20 years late for Raywit. Mrs. Saare also felt very strange. Although she didn't remember anything, looking at this face, she felt this was her child. This scene moved the three bystanders to tears. Raywit said he had hugged many women, but no hug made him as happy as his mother's. His mother told him not to hug women randomly in the future, since he already had a girlfriend. Raywit immediately swore that from now on, his world would only contain his mother and Tida as the women he would hug for life. The next day, Neen held a press conference, announcing Raywit's removal from all positions, completely wiping clean the relationship between him and the company. This evil mother and daughter duo publicly declaring this undoubtedly wanted to push Raywit into a corner. More infuriatingly, no one defended him. Everyone believed Raywit was the mastermind behind the murder case. Neen continued to smear Raywit, not only saying he caused the company losses but also constantly slandering her mother, calling Raywit a thug who would do anything to achieve his goals. The stepmother pretended to be aggrieved, saying she didn't want to mention this, but today on such a formal occasion, she was forced to speak out. That Raywit was incompetent and completely unworthy of the company. Next, Neen let her father announce good news. Turned out that before the press conference, Neen had persuaded her father to use this opportunity to let everyone understand that the company's future would not be in Raywit's hands, fearing he would find a way to take everything back. She forced him to choose today between a Neen who loved him and was loyal to the company, and a Raywit who only knew how to cause trouble and didn't love him at all. So, Raywit's father announced to the public that he was about to retire, and the future of the company would be handed over to Neen. He firmly believed she would lead the company to even greater success. Neen also confidently declared she would make the company the best enterprise in the industry. At that moment, the mother and daughter enjoyed the feeling of victory, and the moment of shining before thousands of people. Raywit acted in no hurry. He wanted to let them be happy for a few days, then he would definitely take everything back. As for Mr. Cho, looking at his son's photo, he felt a bit of remorse about this outcome. After all, it was his biological son. But the stepmother reproached him for being sad, saying it wasn't worth it for a troublemaker, and incited him never to soften his heart. At this moment, Neen had security throw all of Raywit's belongings out. This office would belong to her from now on, but the father asked to keep them for Raywit. If he behaved better, understood and accepted the stepmother. He still wanted him to return because after all he still held a large amount of shares. The stepmother said that day would never come. After being brainwashed by Neen for a while, the father no longer resisted. The well-dressed but wolf-hearted family was celebrating their successful plan. Neen said that even though Raywit was kicked out of the company, he still had a lot of shares. Radet reminded Neen not to forget the new packet of medicine he gave her. A few days ago, Radet gave Neen a new packet of red medicine. After taking it, it would make Raywit's father's consciousness blurry, like a controlled puppet, obeying all their commands, and even handing everything over to Neen. Radet repeatedly instructed to give him the medicine every day, not missing a single day. Just by continuously stuffing the idea of selling Raywit's shares into his head, he would never be able to return to the company. Dom came to give medicine to the boss. Seeing the new medicine, the boss refused to take it and told Dom to keep it a secret. When Dom intended to destroy the pill, she recalled Raywit suspecting this was poison. Dom didn't believe it, so she took the pill herself. After cleaning up when preparing to rest, she suddenly felt dizzy, her heart paining so much she couldn't breathe. The next day, Neen personally brought the medicine. Her father lied that he had indigestion, didn't want to take it, and told Neen not to force him. He said he did what she asked yesterday. If Raywit knew, he would surely be very angry. Neen angrily asked why he cared about him. Did he hope he would return? The father irritably said he had a headache and told Neen to get out. Meanwhile, Saku received an urgent call from the company. Because Neen didn't come to the office, she needed to bring a document for Neen to sign. At this moment, Neen was with her biological father, Radet. As for Tida, she felt she still owed Raywit an answer. So Raywit suggested they continue playing Truth or Dare. The bottleneck pointed towards Tida once again. While she was still hesitating, Raywit threatened that if she chose Dare, he would force her to kiss him. So Tida had to choose Truth. Raywit asked her again if she loved him. This time Tida didn't hide anymore. She bravely admitted that she had fallen for him again. No matter how many troubles occurred, she never thought of leaving Raywit. Then she leaned into his ear, gently saying she loved Raywit very much. The two exchanged a passionate kiss under the romantic starry sky. Tida asked Raywit if he would make her sad again in the future. Raywit said he would try his best to prevent that, and if he slipped up, he would fix it immediately so as not to repeat it, because he wanted to love her longer. Then he pinky swore with Tida and placed a kiss on it. Meanwhile, Anaita's love for Raywit had now completely turned into sibling affection. Kot was happy because his chance had finally come. Although knowing pursuing her would be very difficult, he wasn't discouraged at all. The next day, Raywit's mother sensed some images when standing next to an ancient tree. A black building looked like a company. When she heard Raywit mention Pai Pathong Construction Company, her memories flooded back. She immediately asked to see the photos again, and learned about their relationship from Raywit. The stepmother used to be his father's secretary, Mrs. Saare recounted that in the image that just flashed in her mind, those two were together and seemed very intimate. To retrieve more memories, Mrs. Saare asked her son to take her to the scene of the accident years ago, believing she must have known some secret to be silenced. She tried to recall the past again and saw a few shocking scenes. The stepmother actually had an extremely close relationship with Radet. From all the information they had now, everyone became more certain that Radet was the mastermind behind everything, and perhaps Neen also participated in this plan. Otherwise, she couldn't have entered Radet's house, because he was someone who didn't easily trust anyone. It turned out that Saku had brought the documents to the villa for Neen to sign. When preparing to leave, she heard subordinates looking for Radet. She hurriedly pretended to have a stomachache to borrow the bathroom, then looked around while walking and unexpectedly saw Radet's figure in the house. This scene shocked Saku. She immediately called Tida to report, and decided to stay to investigate what the two were plotting. Anaita didn't understand why Neen would do these things, being siblings but not standing by Raywit's side, and even harming each other. At this moment, Raywit acted like Sherlock Holmes possessed, saying this situation could only happen if they weren't blood-related. Meanwhile, the stepmother wanted Raywit's father to transfer all shares to Neen, so her daughter would have real power and not be a puppet. Doing so could also prevent Raywit from coming back to disrupt the company. But the father thought his son no longer had any position and wouldn't cause more trouble. The stepmother continued to sow fear, saying that if Raywit bought shares from other shareholders, once he had the highest number of shares, that would definitely happen, because Raywit would find every way to balance the power of her and her daughter. Just then, Raywit returned home and declared that letting Neen hold the highest shares would be the thing to ruin the company his father loved most. Seeing the two siblings arguing again, the father dejectedly intended to go back to his room to rest. Raywit told his father he accidentally learned a secret that Neen was actually not his biological daughter, and challenged Neen to dare prove it. The stepmother calmly said Neen was his biological child, then took out a test result and threw it at Raywit, telling him to look carefully and stop this stupid behavior immediately. Raywit was extremely shocked seeing the paper clearly stating they were biological father and daughter. It turned out that to ensure nothing went wrong, Radet had suggested the stepmother take Neen for a DNA test, and then fake a result as a backup. To make the father voluntarily take the test without suspicion, they had Neen pretend to be aggrieved, complaining that both shares and big projects were given to Raywit by her father, assuming she probably wasn't his biological child to be treated so unfairly. The stepmother then pretended to want Neen to stop doubting and feel at ease, suggesting he take a DNA test with his daughter. Neen scolded Raywit severely for slandering her. The father was also both angry and disappointed, telling his son to spend time managing the resort. If it could be profitable, maybe he would let him return to the company. Then he turned to the stepmother and said he would think carefully about the shares. The stepmother smugly said Raywit would never defeat her, but Raywit didn't think so. He declared if she really did wrong, he would definitely trample her underfoot. After meeting Tida, she taught Raywit a lesson for his impulsive behavior, worried he would be eliminated just like his mother. But Raywit wasn't worried at all. Next, he would stop confronting his stepmother and switch to attacking Radet. He immediately called Radet, agreeing to the previous invitation, ready to cooperate in business with him. He lied that he had always been silently running his own business and earning more money than his father, wanting to meet Radet. Radet also intended to use this opportunity to persuade Raywit to sell all his shares. Saku and her husband, from being dirt poor, transformed into successful, filthy rich entrepreneurs in the blink of an eye. It turned out that to gain Radet's trust and obtain evidence of his illegal business, Raywit asked Saku's brother and sister-in-law to pose as investors, intentionally showing off their wealth in front of Radet to attract him. But Radet didn't trust anyone easily, nor did he intend to do business with them. Instead, he declared he only wanted to cooperate with Raywit this time. He asked Raywit why he changed his mind and what exactly he wanted from him. Raywit said he had been fired by his father, and the company had fallen into his stepmother's hands, so he wanted to cooperate with him to show his father that he was more capable than her. But if Radet still had doubts, there was no need to cooperate. After speaking, he walked away. Before Raywit could count to 3, Radet chased after him, demanding he sell all his shares and completely sever ties with Pai Pathong to show sincerity. Otherwise, they couldn't work together. Raywit said he needed to think carefully before answering. At this moment, a subordinate reported to Radet that they had caught a traitor, and that person was Tida's terrible ex-boyfriend, Thumb. He begged Radet to spare his life, swearing to keep the secret and tell no one. Radet insisted on eliminating him. Thumb struggled free and ran away. On the way, he was saved by Raywit, who was preparing to leave. Raywit threatened to hand him back to Radet, forcing Thumb to reveal what happened. At this point, Thumb confessed that he still hadn't forgotten Tida. He thought if he cooperated with Radet to defeat Raywit's father, then Raywit would also lose everything. But Radet completely ignored his plan. Later, he discovered that Radet's real estate business was just a cover, and he was actually secretly running illegal operations. So he tried to find evidence for blackmail, but unexpectedly got caught by Radet's subordinates. Seeing everyone still suspicious, Thumb told Raywit to go to an abandoned warehouse tonight to see, as they had a scheduled transaction there. Unexpectedly, all of this was a plan within a plan by Radet and Thumb. If Raywit really went to the warehouse, it would prove he wasn't sincere about cooperating, and they would make sure he never saw the sunrise tomorrow. But Raywit didn't fall for the trap. Instead of going to the warehouse, he shared a bowl of noodles with Tida in the villa, being affectionate with each other, because he inherently didn't believe Thumb at all. He also assumed Thumb would hate him even more for getting back together with Tida, so he decided to beat him at his own game. The next day, without saying a word, Raywit punched Thumb and threw him in front of Radet. He said that yesterday he saw Thumb being beaten, so he asked about it, never expecting him to slander Radet. Although not knowing what Thumb's purpose was, Raywit absolutely didn't believe Thumb would do anything illegal. As the two were about to fight, Radet said he was the one who ordered Thumb to do so, just wanting to test if Raywit would betray him, because severing ties with one's father wasn't easy. Raywit replied that his father never loved him and even gave all assets to his stepmother. How could such actions not make him hateful? Seeing Raywit speak with such resentment, Radet dispelled all doubts in his heart and decided to join him in revenge, bringing down his father's empire. Elsewhere, everyone celebrated because Raywit had gained Radet's trust. Saku's brother reported new information from the investigation, discovering that Radet's online casino made a lot of money. This reminded Raywit that earlier when leaving, a subordinate reported to Radet that the online system had issues. So Raywit planned to ask Saku's brother to investigate where their office handling this was located. Meanwhile, Kot continued his efforts to help his mother restore her memory. Looking at the photo of the villa, Mrs. Sa-Ra remembered a few more things. That year, because she often worked with Radet, she was photographed and falsely accused of having an illicit relationship. She begged Radette to help her find evidence to prove her innocence to her husband, otherwise she would be labeled as an adulterer and kicked out of the house. Radette said he also needed to find evidence proving he didn't embezzle, and would help her solve this problem together. After returning, Radette ordered his subordinates to destroy all evidence of embezzlement, and gave him a sum of money to pay for taking those photos. Although Mrs. Saare was always faithful to her husband, the husband still foolishly believed his wife was having an affair. Unexpectedly, all these words were heard and recorded by Mrs. Saare. She rushed in and slapped Radette, declaring she knew the whole truth that he not only embezzled company money, but also committed adultery with her husband's secretary. She angrily questioned why he slandered her. Radette demanded Mrs. Saare hand over the recording tape, promising to confess everything to Raywit's father. But at this point, she no longer trusted him. She decided to let her husband see the true face of his best friend, the one who had always betrayed him. After waking from the memory, Mrs. Saare recounted everything to everyone and said she had evidence. That year, she intended to give the evidence to her husband, but he happened to go on a business trip abroad. During those days, she discovered someone was always following her, so she hid the evidence in a safe place. Tita excitedly asked where she hid it. That terrible ex-boyfriend blackmailed his ex-girlfriend and rival for $100 million. But when he opened the bag, he discovered it was full of blank paper. Feeling tricked, he was furious. It turned out that a few days ago Mrs. Saare remembered hiding evidence that could prove her innocence. After the incident happened, she hid that recording tape in a corner of the flower market. The culprit chased after her, threatening her to hand over the evidence. But Mrs. Saare would rather lose her life than give it up. Just as she was about to be killed, Kat's father happened to pass by and saved her. Afterward, Raywit immediately ran to the flower market to search. Finally, he found the rusted metal box containing the evidence. They nervously pressed the play button but no sound came out. The tape was too damaged, causing the recording to be lost. The evidence they worked so hard to find was unusable, disappointing everyone immensely. After returning to Bangkok, Tita kept Raywit at the villa overnight. The two stayed in the same room. Before sleeping, Raywit asked Tita to massage him for relaxation. Because the massage was so pleasant, he couldn't help but let out a few groans. This made Uncle Khan and the chubby Tong outside hear it, misunderstanding that they might be doing something inappropriate in the room. The next morning, the two of them excitedly told everyone what they overheard last night. Raywit shyly explained that they were just massaging shoulders, and he slept on the sofa all night. Meanwhile, Saku's brother had investigated the location of Radette's online casino office. But this evidence was still not strong enough. They needed to find more evidence, especially regarding the two murders. Raywit suspected Radette was definitely the one pulling the strings. To catch the big fish, Raywit decided to cast bait. He sold all his shares to prove to Radette that he had completely ended his relationship with Pai Pathong Company. Radette was very pleased with this. This moment, Thumb entered and reported that he had completed the work assigned by Radette. Raywit didn't want to work with Thumb, since he had betrayed Tita after all, so he asked Radette to fire him. But Thumb told Raywit to clearly distinguish between work and private matters. Thumb was a rare talent. Radette didn't want to lose anyone, and advised Raywit to cooperate to reach the highest goal. Thumb also assured Radette that he would never betray him. Radette said that entrusting him with managing the online casino was enough proof of his trust, and asked Thumb if he had been in this business before. As he had people investigate, Thumb didn't hide it and admitted it right away. They went to the secret office. Thumb introduced that he had used a new method to prevent hackers, in case someone tried to intrude the system again. However, they still hadn't found who the attacker was. Radette gave him a few more days to continue investigating, because in this job, he only trusted Thumb. Elsewhere, Saku and her husband attacked the system again but couldn't get in. However, they spotted Thumb downstairs at the office. Knowing the online casino was managed by Thumb, Tita started to worry. If they kept hanging around there, sooner or later Thumb would discover their plan. Raywit comforted her that they definitely wouldn't lose. Just then, Thumb suddenly burst in and overheard their conversation. It turned out that Saku and her husband were recorded by the surveillance camera downstairs. However, Thumb deleted that footage. He threatened Raywit that if he didn't want the footage sent to Radette, he should prepare $100 million as hush money. Once he had the money, he would immediately return to the US and never see them again. Tita reminded Thumb not to forget he also had secrets. If he didn't disappear from her life, she would expose his fraud through stock trading. Thumb disdainfully said if she had evidence, go report to the police. But he feared no one would handle this now, because everyone's mouths were stuffed with money. He even mocked Tita for being too naive. He gave Raywit a day to think, saying he would return tomorrow for an answer. Tita suggested they split up. She would find a way to stall for time, while Raywit continued to find evidence to take down Thumb. But Raywit felt Thumb wouldn't compromise easily. Meanwhile, Anita found a new method to help Mrs. Saare recover her memory. She wanted to use painting to stimulate memories, believing that the images drawn would be related to the past. But after drawing a few pictures, Mrs. Saare still couldn't remember anything. Anita suggested sneaking Mrs. Saare into the villa. Perhaps going to a familiar place would help her recall everything. But Kat worried that if the stepmother and Neen found out, things would become even more troublesome. Through the children's discussion, Mrs. Saare learned that Neen was her husband's daughter. She suddenly remembered an important clue. Years ago, before giving birth, she confided in the doctor that she really wanted another child, but her husband didn't agree. The doctor told her that he feared Raywit's father couldn't have children anymore, because after that accident, his reproductive system was affected, but he himself didn't know about this. If he wanted to confirm further, the doctor suggested he get a general checkup. But Mrs. Saare assumed her husband definitely wouldn't go. After all, he didn't intend to have more children, so checking wasn't necessary. She intended to tell Raywit about this when she found everyone looking grim. After asking, she learned about Thumb's matter. This time, Thumb also arrived on time to collect the money. When he opened the bag, he discovered it was full of blank paper. Tita stepped forward and slapped him hard. Declaring she wouldn't give him a single cent, Thumb angrily said Radet wouldn't let them off. But Tita said the one who should be afraid was him. Raywit also calmly told Thumb to go ahead and tattle. No one was scared. Thumb immediately called Radet, saying he had an important matter to discuss. Then, he cursed Raywit and everyone as a bunch of idiots, saying when Radet returned from his business trip, he would send them all to hell. But Raywit wasn't panicked at all. With a gunshot, Tita's terrible ex-boyfriend finally suffered heavy consequences. Before that, Raywit had gone a step ahead to meet Radet. He said that Thumb was about to return to the US and would never come back. He also told Radet to double-check his background, as he specialized in illegal businesses in the past, fearing there would be a conflict of interest. Raywit's insinuations implied that Thumb would betray him. Raywit's words finally made Radet suspicious. He had people investigate and discovered that the person who crashed the casino system and embezzled tens of millions was Thumb. Thumb knelt and begged, promising to pay back every penny spent. But Radet made him pay with his life. To save his life, Thumb revealed that Raywit was plotting against him. But Radet didn't believe it. He pulled out a gun and gifted Thumb a few bullets. In another development, Neen strongly opposed the news that Radet had taken Raywit under his wing, suspecting this was definitely a plot. Growing up beside Raywit, she understood very well that no matter how much conflict there was between father and son, Raywit would never harm his father. Radet argued that everyone changes eventually, otherwise Raywit wouldn't have sold all his shares. Neen said that could be bait to gain trust. Raywit had always been looking for evidence against her mother, and now he might have changed direction. This statement reminded Radet of Thumb's warning before he died. He comforted Neen not to worry, as no one in this world could manipulate others like him. Meanwhile, Raywit arranged for a shareholder, Mr. Su, to travel abroad immediately, because someone would contact him soon to buy back the shares Raywit sold to him. He told him to wait until everything was resolved before returning, and he also had a plan for when to buy back those shares. The stepmother was extremely surprised to hear that Mr. Su could not be contacted. She immediately reported this to Radet, claiming this wasn't a coincidence but Raywit's plan. Radet also fully believed that Raywit was dealing with him, and decided to find an opportunity to test him again. When Raywit was preparing to leave the company, he realized he left his phone in the restroom. When he went back to get it, he happened to catch Radet walking into a secret office. He immediately filmed this scene. The administrator had developed a new version for the casino program, requiring Radet to enter the website code before updating. Raywit decided he must find a way to enter that room to gather information, believing there must be important clues they were looking for inside. Regarding Kot, he told Raywit that his father could no longer have children. Tita was a bit confused as to why the test results the stepmother provided stated they were biological father and daughter. Raywit affirmed that someone was definitely lying, but that person was absolutely not his mother. Meanwhile, Neen returned home from a business trip. Dom reported the boss's condition, saying that despite taking medicine on time every day, his illness hadn't improved but instead he was becoming increasingly confused. She suggested the mistress should change doctors. The stepmother scolded Dom, saying she had hired the best doctor, and blamed her for daring to suspect she didn't care about her husband. As for Neen, she went into her father's room and continued to utter enchanting words. She lied that while he was sick, Raywit had gone to lobby shareholders to conspire to seize power, planning to kick them all out of the company. She suggested he transfer all shares to her, swearing to protect all assets and absolutely not let that bastard Raywit steal them. The father agreed immediately. Just then, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest and asked Neen to take him to the doctor, but Neen said it was nothing serious, just needed plenty of rest to recover. Then she asked about the share transfer again. The father said he would send a lawyer to handle it soon. Neen immediately reported this good news to her mother, saying Radet's medicine was truly effective. An evil person like Raywit's father deserved such an ending. The stepmother was very proud of what her daughter had done. The mother and daughter rejoiced that Raywit would never be able to defeat them. Elsewhere, in her subconscious, Mrs. Saare drew a house, but she couldn't understand what it had to do with her. So she called Raywit to tell him about this. Raywit guessed that perhaps something important was left there, but Mrs. Saare had no impression of it. At this moment, Tita received a phone call. She said that later someone would come to help Mrs. Saare recover her memory, and that person was Auntie Fawn, his mother's close friend. After years of separation, all the longing turned into a hug. Seeing Auntie Fawn's face, a few memories flashed in Mrs. Saara's mind. Years ago, before being kicked out of the house by her husband, Auntie Fawn comforted her that one day Raywit's father would know how much she loved him, that it was all a misunderstanding and there was no betrayal. Mrs. Saare decided to find evidence to prove her innocence. She entrusted her son to Auntie Fawn's care. The two sat down having so much to talk about. Auntie Fawn recognized the house in the painting as the private detective office of a friend of Mrs. Saare. Since the stepmother joined the company as Raywit's father's private secretary, the couple's relationship constantly faced problems. Therefore, she asked her friend to help investigate the relationship between her husband and the stepmother. Mrs. Saare affirmed that the stepmother was the one causing everything, and she believed the mastermind was Radet. The purpose of all this was to seize assets. Currently, they had a lot of evidence against Radet and the stepmother, and all secrets probably lay in this house. To test Raywit, Radet suggested turning the resort into a racetrack. Raywit flatly refused. He knew Radet was testing him. He said if Radet still maintained a suspicious attitude, there was no need to cooperate in the future. No matter what, he would keep the resort. After leaving the office, he immediately arranged with Tita to go get the evidence together. However, Mrs. Saara's friend had passed away long ago, but before dying, she instructed her daughter to hand over some important things to Mrs. Saare. Just then, a lawyer was called in to proceed with the share transfer procedure. Neen was so impatient that she couldn't wait any longer, preparing to go to the company to announce that from now on, all power belonged to her. The father was wheeled down in his wheelchair, intently examining each file, while the mother and daughter were still gleeful, thinking the shares were about to be theirs. He suddenly spoke up, coldly saying he still couldn't sign any papers. The two were bewildered, not knowing who else they had to wait for. This moment, Raywit and Tita strode in confidently. Neen didn't understand why her father told Dom to call Raywit. The stepmother also anxiously urged him to hurry up with the procedure. But the father said before signing, he had something to say. Then he suddenly stood up from the wheelchair. This scene stunned the stepmother and her daughter. They didn't understand why he could stand up and walk. The father declared it was because he had stopped taking those poisonous pills. It turned out that after Dom secretly tasted the pill, she felt extremely uncomfortable. She recounted her symptoms to Raywit. Suspecting the medicine Neen gave the master was poison, Raywit asked Dom to help investigate clearly. So, when Neen was about to go on a business trip, Dom volunteered to give the medicine in her place, lying that she had a way to make the master stop refusing to take it. Only then did Neen agree. Dom told the master that if he didn't want to take it, he didn't need to, because Raywit wanted to see if stopping the medicine would alleviate the symptoms. Afterward, they took him to the hospital. The doctor diagnosed that the medicine he took every day was poison, and instructed him not to take it again no matter what happened. Knowing that the daughter he loved most was cruelly poisoning him, the father was extremely heartbroken. He said that all this time he was only pretending to be paralyzed, never expecting them to persuade him to transfer all assets. He questioned the stepmother why she treated him like that. This moment, Raywit advised the stepmother to think carefully before speaking, because all evidence was in his hands. She had no choice but to confess the truth. Ignoring her mother's dissuasion, Neen snatched the file to look. She learned that her mother and Radet had always deceived her. The stepmother hurriedly said that evidence was fake, telling her daughter not to believe it. But those words only made Neen hate her mother more, hating that she turned her into a tool to harm her father. Unable to accept the truth, Neen collapsed and fainted. The father didn't want to see the stepmother's face anymore, telling Raywit to call the police immediately. In a panic, the stepmother pulled out a gun, taking Dom hostage. Neen woke up, advising her mother to admit her mistake. But the stepmother knew she had no way back. To protect her daughter, she continued to divert attention, repeatedly emphasizing that Neen was truly his daughter, and Pai Pathong Company must belong to Neen alone. Then she pushed Dom away and ran off. Afterward, Neen apologized to her father for her past actions. The father not only forgave her but also decided to give her a chance to repent. Raywit also comforted Neen, saying making mistakes and knowing how to correct them is fine. The father told his son that this family and company always welcomed him back. As for Neen, if she truly repented, he was also willing to take the risk to let her stay. Raywit said he would keep an eye on all of Nin's actions. If she didn't change, he would personally deal with her. The guilty father didn't know if his ex-wife was still alive or not. If he could see her again, the thing he wanted to do most was apologize to her. But Mrs. Saare didn't want to forgive him, because the wound he left her was too painful. She didn't want to forget it for the rest of her life. Under everyone's persuasion, Mrs. Saare decided to reconsider. Meanwhile, the secret trio had gathered evidence of Radette's illegal business dealings. Plus the information about the online casino in Raywit's hands. They were certain Radette wouldn't be able to escape this time. But Saku's brother still felt they shouldn't be subjective, because Radette had been to prison before. He would definitely find every way not to go there again. After finishing discussing work, Raywit announced that after everything was over, he had one big thing left to do, which was to hold a wedding with Tida. The three best friends immediately cheered excitedly, even happier than the future bride. Only Auntie Fawn didn't show any joy. She was very happy that her daughter had found true love again. But in the US, a huge responsibility was waiting for her. If all problems here were resolved, Tida had to return to manage the company. Auntie Fawn also didn't want her daughter to leave her company. Her mother's words made Tida realize that life couldn't be perfect in every way. Two people living in two different hemispheres, how could they become partners? This was a problem Tida definitely had to solve. Thinking to save himself, Radette coaxed the stepmother into confessing, taking all the blame for him. He promised to seek revenge on Raywit and his father after bringing his daughter back, then would do everything to get her out of prison. Deeply in love with Radette, the stepmother agreed. She went to the company, returned her wedding ring to her ex-husband, expressed regret for her actions, and took full responsibility for embezzlement, murder, and obstructing Raywit, claiming Neen and Radette were uninvolved. However, Tida and Raywit didn't believe her lies. She warned them not to blame Radette to avoid trouble. Suddenly, Mrs. Saare appeared, shocking the stepmother and her ex-husband. She slapped the stepmother, furious that she had been separated from her son for decades. Still angry, Mrs. Saare slapped her again, saying harming her was one thing, but harming her son was unforgivable. Auntie Fawn also declared that Mrs. Saare didn't betray Raywit's father, clearing her name after decades of injustice. Everyone recounted Mrs. Saara's ordeal to the father. Auntie Fawn revealed Mrs. Saare hadn't wanted to see him to avoid painful memories. The father thanked his ex-wife for opening his eyes and apologized for his past mistakes, admitting greed had clouded his judgment. Although Mrs. Saare forgave him, she had no intention of returning to the Pai Pathong family, as she had a happy family elsewhere, and maintaining a friendship was enough. Finally, Raywit returned to the company, reconciling with his father through a warm hug. However, Radette acted as if nothing happened, continuing his online casino business. His subordinates advised him to leave, but Radette refused, believing he was safe since someone took the blame and there was no evidence against him. He vowed to silence Raywit if he knew about the casino. Meanwhile, Kot happily informed Anaita that his big project was approved. Now successful, he asked Anaita to be his girlfriend, promising never to break up with her. Anaita shyly agreed. As they expressed their love, two men in black attacked them. Raywit received a warning call from Radette, threatening danger to those around him if he interfered again. But Raywit remained determined to put Radette in jail. Soon after, he received photos of the injured Anaita and Kot. Simultaneously, Saku obtained new evidence against Radette, which they immediately handed to the police. Tida worried the evidence wouldn't work and Raywit would be in danger again. Fearing they couldn't continue their relationship, Raywit comforted her, saying he could overcome this obstacle and nothing could stop them. Auntie Fawn saw them hugging and hoped her daughter would start thinking about her and Raywit's future. Although she didn't want to separate the couple, the company was expanding, so Tida had to return to help. Tida asked Raywit about their future plans. Raywit unhesitatingly said marriage, stating he had to continue managing his company and couldn't leave. Tida said she couldn't leave her mother either. Raywit believed they would cross that bridge when they came to it, promising to overcome difficulties together. However, Auntie Fawn knew this path was actually a dead end. The next day, the police raided Radette's company. His subordinates urged him to flee. Worried the police would find the server and destroy his online casino, Radette killed the administrator and escaped through the back door. The police seized Radette's assets and blocked exits to prevent him from fleeing abroad. Unwilling to accept defeat, Radette decided to seek revenge, determined not to let Raywit live in peace. Meanwhile, Raywit hired bodyguards for his home and company, instructed his father not to go out, and asked Dom to watch Neen, forbidding anyone from leaving the house. Neen overheard their conversation, learned Radette was wanted, and had nowhere to hide. She sneaked into her father's office, found a gun, intending to solve the problem she caused. Dom caught her leaving, But Neen lied to her father that her best friend was dying and begged to see her one last time. Her father insisted a police officer accompany her. On the way, Neen lied about a tire problem. While the officer checked, she knocked him out and went alone to find Redette, filming and cursing him for deceiving and using her. She had trusted and loved him so much, only for it all to turn out to be a scam in the end. Redette said that everything he did was just because he wanted Neen alone to have all of Raywit's father's assets. But right now, Neen no longer believed him. She hated Redette for ruining her entire life. Just then, Redette's subordinate arrived, knocked Neen unconscious and saved him. However, Redette sent the video of Neen coming to settle the score with him and getting kidnapped to Tita, demanding she prepare a sum of cash. Otherwise he would eliminate Neen. Tita didn't believe Redette dared to do that. Redette lied again, saying Neen wasn't his daughter, so why wouldn't he dare? Then, he even revealed Tita's identity, saying that as the future chairwoman of a maid company in the US, this little bit of money surely wouldn't be a problem. He ordered Tita to quickly prepare the money to exchange for Neen's life. If she dared to tell anyone else about this, Neen would definitely lose her life. To not drag her mother into this, Tita had to bring the cash to the meeting spot alone. Unexpectedly, it was all just a trap set up by Neen and Redette. When Tita brought the money to ransom Neen, she discovered that Neen wasn't kidnapped at all. It was all just an act arranged by her and Redette. Neen heartlessly knocked Tita unconscious. At Mr. Cho's house, after getting the DNA test results with Neen, he learned that Neen wasn't his biological daughter and couldn't accept it for a moment. Raywit hurriedly called to report this to Tita, but unexpectedly, the person who answered the phone was Neen. Raywit didn't understand why Neen chose to trust Redette once again. Neen said that no one loved her as much as her biological father. It turned out Redette had sought Neen out and continued to brainwash her. He said that he did everything to make everyone believe she was Raywit's father's daughter, because he wanted her to get his assets. Deceiving and using her before was to create a bright future for her. Living in this cruel world, one must be smart and rich enough. But Neen still couldn't forgive Redette for causing her mother to go to prison. Redette said that wasn't caused by him. Her mother sacrificed herself so they could survive. In the end, the ones who loved Neen the most were always her biological parents. He said that Raywit would soon inherit his father's position and control the company. Raywit's father would never let Neen replace his biological son to become the top manager. Under Redette's constant seduction, Neen agreed to cooperate with him to seize all of Raywit's father's assets together. Even if the plan didn't succeed, she had to ruin the lives of that father and son. Raywit said Neen was being used by Redette, telling her to think carefully about her future and not continue doing foolish things. But Neen assumed she knew well who was truly good to her. Redette told Raywit to stop brainwashing Neen and demanded he bring cash. If he dared to call the police, he would send Tita to hell immediately. This time, he wouldn't go easy on anyone anymore. Raywit and two friends brought the cash to the warehouse as scheduled. But when Redette received the money, he had no intention of ending things. On the contrary, he wanted Raywit to live in misery every day. He showed Raywit a video where Neen had kidnapped little Emotang too. If Raywit chose to save Tita, Emotang would lose his life. Conversely, if Raywit went to save his son, Tita would lose her life because of Emotang. Neen asked how Raywit would choosing his son or his lover. Both were the people Raywit loved the most, making it impossible for him to choose. Redette said that meant both of them had to die. He immediately called Neen and told her to eliminate Emotang. Raywit hurriedly begged Redette not to do that. Tita also begged him not to harm the child, saying all hatred had nothing to do with him. At this moment, the subordinate reminded Redette to leave there quickly. So Redette had his people take Tita along, while finishing off the other three. Elsewhere, as Neen was preparing to act against Emotang, she received a call from Redette. He requested to keep Emotang alive, using the boy as a hostage to escape together, which would be safer. Just as Redette picked up Neen preparing to leave, Raywit's group suddenly appeared. Kot quickly pulled out his gun and shot to wound the opponent. Tita used her own life to threaten them into revealing where Emotang was hidden. Raywit told Redette to release the child and run away quickly. But how could Neen be willing to let those who ruined her life survive? Just as she intended to kill Raywit and Tita, the police arrived in time. Emotang took the opportunity to bite the henchman's hand and ran towards his father. In the hail of bullets, the henchmen fell one by one. Just as Redette was about to be hit, he heartlessly pulled Neen in front to take the bullet for him. Neen painfully asked why her father treated her like that. But Redette, wanting to save his life, abandoned his daughter and hurriedly ran away. At this moment, Neen finally shed tears of regret. But it was all too late. The evil thing she had done made her undeserving of any pity. As Redette was preparing to escape, he was unfortunately shot by the police. Before dying, he kept saying that he would definitely survive, no one could defeat him, and he would definitely be richer than everyone else. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood, fell to the ground and lost his life. Until the very last moment, he still wouldn't give up or admit his mistakes. After everything settled down, Raywit's mother gathered everyone at the company to find a way to help Raywit and Tita stay together. Raywit's father suggested letting Tita open a company domestically to handle work. Auntie Fawn had no objection, but the prerequisite was that Tita had to return to the US first to resolve the issues. Raywit hoped Tita could return soon, making her promise not to be gone for more than 3 months. Tita immediately guaranteed it and stuck out her pinky finger, preparing to pinky swear. But Raywit felt this method was outdated. He pointed to his cheek, implying he needed a promise like this. So Tita gently placed a kiss on his cheek. Meanwhile, Kot changed the sign of Anita's shop to a photo of the two of them, and renamed it with both of their names, wanting to let the whole world know Anita was taken. He also gave her a diamond ring as a birthday gift cum proposal gift. Very quickly, more than 3 months passed. Tita finished handing over her work and returned from the US. She came for a surprise visit dressed as a maid. Raywit happily ran like the wind to hug her tight. Emotang also ran over to express how much he missed Tita, and asked her to be his mother. Tita happily agreed. In the past 3 months, Raywit had received the Outstanding Entrepreneur Award. He knew that without Tita, he wouldn't have achieved what he had today. Raywit thanked her for returning to his life and giving him a wonderful love. The movie ends here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exciting movies.